It is explained that on the eve of the year 2076, a game became reality as a massive explosion occurred in the sky, leaving everyone in shock. Countless dangerous monsters invaded the human world, and with that, a great massacre began. Due to the attack, humanity was brought to the brink of extinction. However, even amidst the destruction, some divine talents began to emerge. Many humans started awakening and fighting to save the world from the monster's grasp. The strongest people began to be revered, and survival of the fittest became the law, making hunters increasingly stronger. In pursuit of greater power and wealth, hunters started challenging bosses, acquiring more treasures and leveling up, marking the beginning of the era of global hunters. A figure appears, walking and climbing stairs. He looks exhausted and reflects that at least he managed to acquire a rare profession he had never expected. Subiyang thinks he has awakened, but in the most common warrior class. The boy reflects that, in the beginning, warriors faced difficulties in melee combat, but later, by investing in cultivation, they managed to match other professions. Someone interrupts the boy's thoughts and remarks that they heard he awakened in the worst warrior class, saying it's a perfect match. Joking about the situation, the man approaches Su Yang and says his class is merely a normal person with a little extra strength. Trying to ignore it, the protagonist suddenly kills an insect with his hands. He looks up and identifies the young man as Wang Fei, a classmate, and congratulates him for awakening in a rare level. However, he points out that he heard magicians have weak physical strength right after awakening and suggests testing it with the young man. Feeling superior, Fei mocks him, saying that the opponent is in an inferior class yet dares to doubt him, calling him arrogant. Something catches the duo's attention, and they quickly look toward it. A group approaches, climbing the stairs, drawing attention. It is the spirit hunting team of the guild. As they get closer, the group leader orders them to move aside, claiming to be in a hurry. Seeking some advantage, Wang Fei approaches Zhao Ming, the group's vice president, and expresses his desire to join them, trying to introduce himself. A woman steps forward, stating that the person in charge of recruitment is not there and orders the young man to step aside, but the leader wants to know the boy's profession. He introduces himself as an ice magician, a control specialist, and is approved by Zhao, who asks someone to give him a card. The blonde woman gives orders to the boy while the protagonist merely observes the scene in disbelief. Wang's other friends also ask to join the group. Irritated, the woman says they don't need more people and orders them not to waste her time further. But Su Yang intervenes and inquires about warriors. This causes the young woman to pause and reflect on what she heard. Noticing this, Su hesitates and doesn't proceed up the stairs. He wonders if this is really happening. Wang's pair of friends continue arguing, frustrated as they had hoped to join the guild. Both remark that they didn't expect to see the guild's vice president there and had been planning to use a teleportation gate. Hearing their conversation, the term Black Dragon's Lair catches the protagonist's attention. He explains what it means, stating that the Black Dragon is the largest of the dungeons and that the Black Dragon's lair is filled with small monsters and powerful creatures. He adds that this competition is the deadliest among guilds, given the risk of losing rare items. Still pondering what he heard, he believes the guild's spirit hunting team could win the confrontation. However, wanting to change his life, Su wonders if he will remain a poor person in this life, crushed under the feet of powerful beings. Suddenly, something begins to emerge in the sky. Snapping out of his thoughts, the boy wonders what's happening. A message appears in the skies, mentioning a trickster system and referencing a part-time boss, leaving the boy confused about what it means. The message states that the system is complete, explains its purpose, and asks the boy if he would like to activate it. Su Yang reflects on the proposal, knowing how it works, and thinks he could manage it, in addition to quickly becoming stronger through experience. But he considers the consequences if he is defeated by another player. The system begins a countdown for the boy to respond, and he becomes desperate due to the short time to think. Undecided, he looks at the panel and doesn't know whether to answer yes or no. In the final minutes of the countdown, he presses accept and believes it's the only way to become strong. After the choice is made, the system is activated and the teleportation begins. As he is being transported, he asks to be given boss-level powers. When he opens his eyes, he is confused about where he is. He sees dragons of various levels but thinks they are much smaller than he had imagined. A man approaches and calls him Noble King, asking if he is awakened from the long dream he was in. Upon closer inspection, he realizes his dragon is level 99 with black flame wings. The system presents details about that dragon, including health, attributes, speed, strength, talents, and abilities, and Su is astonished. He reflects that the dragon is incredibly powerful, with terrifying strength, but its talents are the key piece. Combining all of this with its abilities, he concludes that no player could be his opponent. With immense power in his body, the young man, now a dragon, feels formidable. He keeps thinking that with this experience, he could grow stronger and level up quickly. While reflecting, he hears someone asking the king to stay calm and not become angry. The dragon rises and commands all the useless beings to do the same, believing that is the proper tone for a boss to speak. Bowing, the man falls to the ground and declares that the dragon is his true king with great powers and maturity, and that crushing the human world will be swift. Nearby, a girl awakens and tries to understand what is happening and what the dragon is planning. Irritated, she suggests that it would be better to let her go, or else the elf race will make him pay. Stu is surprised to see elves and says it's the first time he's seen such a being in person. A special disturbance begins, leaving everyone confused about what is happening, and the elf believes it's someone coming to rescue her. Before that, she thinks the dragon is ignoring all insults and asks why he's acting so strangely. The boy realizes it's the spirit hunting team from the guild arriving at the location, and he hadn't thought they would arrive so quickly. He believes he can defeat them with his powers, but to be cautious, he decides to use his abilities to investigate first. Analyzing, the dragon gathers data on all the members, including their levels and powers, concluding that this is the guild's most powerful team. Planning their attack, the group shouts their first move, which involves penetrating the black dragon's lair to defeat the creature. They detect some small monsters, specifically 8 level 80 flying magic wolves with wind attributes, and decide to test the monster's powers. But the leader tells them not to waste time on small, low-level creatures. The group orders the use of fire attributes to attack and then withdraw quickly. Afterward, they continue walking, maintaining formation, while the dragon simply observes. Sue believes he has understood everything that this means. He concludes that since they are a professional team, they need more challenges, and as he thinks this, the group tries to advance. Suddenly, something falls from the sky, surprising everyone as they can't comprehend what it is. The leader shouts that it's an elite monster and orders everyone to defend themselves immediately. Irritated, the elite monster tries to strike everyone present. A lightning bolt is launched at a man who defends himself with a shield. Trying to stay calm, they order everyone not to panic, to retreat, and to focus on fire explosions. The monster is attacked by the group's powers. Sue, in dragon form, observes the group's true strength and thinks he couldn't handle them alone, while the elf stays calm, realizing it doesn't concern her. He then decides to send several monsters to fight, realizing that just one wasn't enough, so he summons 6. Alarmed, the group questions what is happening, but decides to face the elite monsters. Desperate, they ask the leader what they should do, and the young man explains that this is truly strange, and that he's never seen anything like it. But, encouraging his team, he says they will fight and shouldn't be afraid. The young man orders them to return to formation, stay alert, and prioritize healing the injured. A battle begins. Commanding the situation, the dragon thinks that using the elite monsters, the group should have given up by now, but that's not what happened. Assessing the situation, the dragon wonders if the group has any cards they haven't used yet. He realizes that the group is heading in a different direction, no longer moving toward him, and that this might mean there is something else on the other side. A tomb is revealed, and when Sue investigates, he notices a skeletonized corpse inside. Quickly, he understands what is happening and realizes that the strategy being used is the same as in online games. Inside the cage, the elf observes everything and cannot believe what she is seeing and how the Lord is acting, believing that the king will triumph. The dragon realizes that they were already aware of the items. He concludes that the item cannot fall in the hands of the group. As they walk, the group believes they may encounter more surprises along the way, but that does not happen. Owen questions the leader about supplies and the duration of their consumable equipment, wondering if they might have been deceived by the celestial mechanism pavilion. Doubtful, the leader says it is impossible, as he has a guarantee and change the strategies, concluding that it cannot be fake. He is interrupted by a man who asks if they shouldn't alert the leader about the situation, as they are close to the dragon's lair. Determined, the man says he will take revenge, given the many damages caused to the guild. Feeling competent, one of the members declares he will leave the black dragon to the guild leader but will keep an eye on the elf with him. Nearing their destination, the group senses the presence of monsters. They alert the guild master, who asks if the monsters can fly, but notes they seem like small creatures. Alarmed, a young man warns that these are giant monsters, not mere flying dragons. Given their size, they can only be the black flame-winged dragon. The master panics, unable to comprehend why the boss would appear here. Desperate, they question what they should do at that moment to fight. They request permission from the master to retreat quickly while the man considers. Overhearing the conversation, Sue thinks it will be easy to eliminate everyone and level up. The protagonist prepares to unleash one of his abilities, but he is interrupted by a blue power that appears. Determined to fight, the guild master is the one using the power. He declares that no one will leave and that he will attempt to battle the dragon. He orders everyone to prepare to fight alongside him. Everyone gets ready to face the creature. Dan is called to activate the strongest defense barrier and support the others by applying something to maximize the output of the remaining members. The young man agrees and follows the master's orders, moving closer to the dragon's tail. Everyone tries to escape before the tail strikes. During the battle, the creature tries to hit all the members of the group quickly. Clever, it decides to focus on defense, unsure of what the human's next move will be. And sure enough, the guild decides to attack all at once, launching various powers toward the beast. A massive explosion occurs and everything is engulfed in fire. The master orders everyone to prepare for the second wave of attacks and aim to deplete at least 5% of the dragon's health, but something shocks him. He notices they've only dealt 10,000 damage collectively, leaving him stunned. A girl points out that the creature's power is insane and that they cannot deal effective damage, but the master insists they continue attacking. Mockingly, Sue comments that fighting humans is incredibly boring, like being bitten by mosquitoes. Even so, the guild keeps attacking, and the protagonist notices they still hold out hope of defeating him, despite the odds. But he decides to put an end to the battle. With a powerful roar, a massive force is unleashed toward the group, engulfing them in flames. Victorious, he remarks that they seem like an A-rank guild, but were not a perfect match for him. Everyone is down, but the master manages to gather enough strength to stand and asks why the abilities were released at that moment. Despite his injuries, the young man orders them to continue the attack until he notices the dragon approaching. Frustrated, he wonders why the creature wasn't paralyzed despite all the abilities being unleashed. Again, he orders that the creature be paralyzed. But a new wave of powers is launched toward the young man. Enraged, the master burns in flames while cursing the black dragon, vowing to destroy it eventually. At that moment, the system beeps, announcing that the protagonist has completely eliminated the group and that the experience will now begin. Suddenly, a pink light appears, and the protagonist notices his experience points are surging. He keeps leveling up, believing the bar might explode if it doesn't stop. The system notifies him that he has gained 990,000 advanced level points, going from level 1 to 20 and keeping 430,000 points in reserve. Sue realizes that his level can continue skyrocketing since he still has more experience to gain. Curious, he decides to check if he has acquired some equipment and thinks that in a high-level guild, he could get rarer, gold-level items. Upon accessing the inventory, he notices the accessories he has obtained, such as boots, swords, weapons, and many other things. One of the weapons he acquired is a bow that belonged to Vice President Zhao Ming, and these items could earn him millions. Suddenly, something catches his attention, and he becomes anxious. It's a special stone that can remove level restrictions, so powerful that even a level 1 could wield platinum-level items, which typically require level 61. Additionally, he also possesses a platinum sword, and with all those items, he would be capable of killing anyone. Excited, Sue says he can't wait to return and change his job, so he decides to head back immediately. Quickly, he opens his eyes and finds himself back in his human form at home, surprised as he thought he would return to the plaza where he was earlier. He decides to check and confirms that he has indeed reached level 20 and that it's not a dream. Touching the screen, he begins allocating the strength and spirit points he earned for becoming a dragon. A brilliant light fills the room as the young man wonders if allocating points could burn his aura. Exhausted from everything that has just happened, Sue remarks that next time he should avoid overdoing it when adding points. Looking out the window, the boy notices it's already late and decides to rest so he can pursue his plans the next day. The next day, at the guild headquarters, someone is surprised to see the leader returning so quickly. It's the blonde girl who is shocked to see that the leader's level has dropped, deeming it almost impossible. The young woman also panics upon noticing that many members of the group have died, which makes no sense since they used the same strategy. Along with the leader, Vice President Zhao Ming also returns, but he is severely injured as his weapon exploded. Another member shouts and cries over the diamond boots that were left behind. Frustrated, the leader vows to hold the head of the pavilion responsible for giving them a faulty strategy. He declares he will not rest until he gets answers. The ancient orphanage is introduced. A child calls for his grandfather and asks him to check out the items, noting there are so many. Startled by the sheer quantity, they assume the delivery must have gone to the wrong place, but the courier confirms that it is indeed the correct location and was sent by Su Yang. Yahello, a little girl nearby, approaches the boxes, and the elder shouts for her to be careful. The girl runs past the deliveries as the boxes wobble. She freezes in fear as the items tumble toward her. Suddenly, someone appears and catches the falling objects. It's Su Yang who holds the boxes, saves the girl, and remarks that it's been a long time since he's seen her. The other children grow excited and rush toward the boy upon realizing he's there. The older man smiles upon seeing the young man and asks if he has chosen a profession, to which Sue replies that he has and that he's made some money. Concerned, the elder advises him to be cautious with the dungeons as they're full of monsters nearby. He warns that beginners can lose levels and even die if they aren't careful, but the boy interrupts, assuring his grandfather not to worry. Thoughtfully, the elder reflects on everything his grandson just said, feeling confused. Elsewhere, rumors spread about the spirit hunting guild being wiped out while attacking the Black Dragon boss. The conversation passes from one person to another as Sue walks by and overhears. He realizes they only dared to fight him because they purchased a strategy from the TNG Pavilion, and he concludes they must be his next targets. As he walks, Wang Fi's group of opponents appears and asks why he's there trying to change his profession. Mockingly, the boy says no guild has accepted Sue, which is why he comes every day to try his luck. He adds that he didn't have time to teach Sue a lesson the day before, but today his opponent won't be able to escape. Wang continues taunting, saying he spared Sue the day before because of the guild, but now he has adjusted his points and learned new skills. Before Wang Fei could strike, the protagonist lands a punch squarely on his face. Wang is sent flying and Sue celebrates, noting his power was well utilized. The other boys rush to check on their friend, visibly frightened. Su explains he was merely swatting an insect on Wang's face, but mentions there are still others flying around as he approaches the remaining boys. They beg not to be attacked but meet the same fate as Wang Fei. A figure appears, clapping, and remarks that the protagonist is truly impressive, asking if there's anything she can assist with. It's the professional transition guide from the temple. Su states he would like to undergo a professional transition, and the woman instructs him to follow her. As they walk, she grows thoughtful, noting that while he seems like an ordinary student, his earlier strength and speed suggests he's already at level 20. They arrive at the statue of the god of transition, which will automatically determine the boy's profession and level. Standing before it, Su finds the statue impressive. The woman explains how it works, mentioning that tasks are divided into 4 levels, recommending he undertake a 3-star task. However, Su contemplates choosing a 4-star task. Noticing this, she warns that 4-star tasks are highly challenging and cannot be completed alone during a transition. Su approaches the machine, which confirms he is level 20 with a warrior profession. A list of possible professions appears, showing the 3-star task, but a 5-star transition option also emerges, catching him by surprise. The screen details the 5-star task, including rewards and notes about the associated item. Kirichi asks why she didn't mention the 5-star task and what the cited privilege entails. She explains that 5-star tasks are extremely difficult. Further elaborating on the task and its privileges, she states that people at this level must defeat numerous monsters without external assistance. Su considers her explanation. She asks for his thoughts and reiterates that the 3-star task is the ideal choice for him. Su thanks her, saying her advice was very helpful. Nevertheless, Su opts for the 5-star task. He's informed he has 72 hours to complete it, and a powerful force erupts, leaving the woman shocked. The protagonist explains that he assessed everything and deemed the 5-star task suitable, while the guide warns that failure isn't an option. Su assures her not to worry, and that he'll return after completing the task, adding that he's eager to discover the privileges. As he exits, the woman panics, realizing someone has truly accepted such a complex challenge. The Spirit City Eastern Teleportation Center is shown. A notice announces that due to energy fluctuations, the teleport gate's opening will be delayed by a few minutes. Standing before the gate, Su finds the delay unexpected, but not being in a rush, decides to explore how to navigate the Cold Moon Forest. 2 women approach. One is Xu Yan, a member of the Ghost Rain Guild, accompanied by Xiao Qian. The blonde notices Xu Yang in line for teleportation. Xu Yan asks if Xiao Qian knows him, and she explains they're classmates but both switched jobs the previous day. Finding it odd, Xu Yan remarks she doesn't understand why Su is in line for a teleportation gate leading to level 20 monsters, given he's just a beginner. Panicked, Xiao Qian insists she must warn her friend, fearing he made a mistake entering that queue. But it's too late. Su is already being teleported. Su's first stop is the Cold Moon Forest, suitable for levels 20 to 30. Observing the area, Su notes the absence of people, realizing everyone has scattered to hunt monsters. Suddenly, a creature lunges at him, but he dodges. Assessing the situation, Su remarks that he didn't expect monsters to appear so quickly, and acknowledges that avoiding traded items or gear adds complexity. He decides to use a sword to confront the creature. Confident, he believes everything was meticulously planned. At his current level, he shouldn't be able to wield the weapon, but thanks to the gem he acquired, he can use the sword. Before attacking, he recalls accidentally breaking numerous high-level gems and selling unnecessary items for a staggering billion. Looking over the remaining items, he considers selling the bow, believing Zhao Ming might buy it back later. The boy thinks that low-level monsters lack intelligence and don't realize they should retreat after being attacked. Returning to attack the monster, he swings his sword at the wolf, slicing it apart. Su celebrates having taken down one of the creatures but admits it's tedious to hunt them one by one. Thus, he uses a monster-attracting stone to lure them toward him. 5 minutes later, the effect works and several creatures approach. This time, the boy decides to use a disposable skill scroll that deals area of effect flame damage to all nearby enemies. The power is unleashed toward the monsters. Many perish, causing the boy's experience level to rise significantly. Satisfied, the protagonist wonders if there are any more wolves or if he's already attracted all of them in the forest. He decides to walk around and questions why he hasn't encountered any more monsters, even after walking 2 kilometers. Nearby, a group discusses having recently encountered a monster and notes that they are quite aggressive. One of them remarks that someone used a monster-attracting stone, calling it a shameless tactic. The group decides to teach the person who used this method a lesson for leaving no monsters for others to fight. Suddenly, a cloud of fire bursts from behind the trees. Frightened, the trio assumes only someone at level 3 can wield such power. Without hesitation, they abandon their mission and head home early. Su realizes his work is almost done, with only the wolf pack leader remaining. Reviewing the mission, the boy remarks that he thought the 5-star task would be harder, but it turned out to be quite simple. Nearby, another trio observes the forest and claims to have found the boss monster's cave, strategizing how to defeat it. Zhang discusses his powers and his plans for attacking the boss. They notice someone approaching. Su appears, walking with his sword, and the trio assumes he's lost, thinking he looks like a student. One of the men suggests they shouldn't warn him of the danger since the protagonist could lure the boss as bait, allowing them to kill it. Suddenly, a tremor shakes the ground. Unbothered, the boy keeps walking. The wolf boss appears, towering before the protagonist. Watching from afar, the trio is terrified and unsure if they should engage in the fight. Zhang insists they shouldn't act like cowards and refuses to waste the opportunity. But before he can act, something catches him off guard. Su is fighting the wolf alone, flames erupting from their battle. After defeating the boss, the boy remarks that it was an easy fight. Stunned, Zhang collapses in frustration, noticing the screens Su is tapping, which he dismisses as mere scraps. Mockingly, Su remarks that it's a good time to head back to the city, laughing loudly. But he is interrupted by the man who demands the blue wolf's crystal core. Swiftly, Su turns around, startling Zhang, and asks who said he would be used as bait, as the trembling man denies ever thinking that. Su threatens to punch the man, stating that if he wants the crystal core, he should earn it with his own skills. Like a frightened child, Zhang remains on the ground, claiming he was startled and lucky not to have acted earlier. The man's friends wonder if they're dreaming, calling the whole situation insane. Back at the temple, Su meets the woman who assisted with his career transition and tells her he has completed the mission, which is why he returns so soon. She checks the monitor and is shocked to see that he completed a 5-star mission. Stunned, she struggles to believe he managed to finish the task in such a short time. She finds it unbelievable that anyone could do so in under a day and begins to suspect he may have cheated, though she also knows that would be impossible. Tired of the conversation, the boy asks if he can proceed with his profession advancement. The woman apologizes for her behavior and instructs him to follow her. As they walk, she silently thanks God for reporting the boy's actions to the priest, recognizing him as an extraordinary talent. Though a nun, she blushes as she looks at him, concluding that he is also very handsome. They arrive at the statue that will validate Su's mission. Standing before it, a light emerges, displaying the boy's data and confirming that the mission has been successfully completed. A powerful energy flows into the boy's body. It is explained that this is the reward for completing an advanced mission, and depending on the task level, the color grants a bonus. The white color gives a 2% bonus, green 4%, blue 6%, and pink 10%. Observing, the boy notices his color is orange, and they explain that very few people receive this bonus, which is 25%. Quickly, his level begins to rise, increasing his strength and spirit by 90 each, and his speed by 30. With that, the boy immediately jumps to level 34, enhanced by the addition of the orange aura and the great sword flame bonus. As a reward for his epic skill, the protagonist receives a magical warrior book that explains magic, magical powers, and other details about weapons. He decides to test a new power and is surprised by the skill he has gained, which can now be controlled with his mind and will be useful in combat or for shooting arrows. Pleased with his rewards, the boy remarks that he should continue undertaking 5-star missions to keep earning the best prizes. Interrupting him, the woman congratulates him again and says his name will be inscribed on the temple monument and he will also be admitted to VIP classes. Curious, Su asks about the privileges of VIP students, and the woman says she will check. Before she can leave, another woman approaches and says she will explain personally, introducing herself as Bai Ling, a senior priestess of the temple. Her presence surprises everyone, and she states she needed to be there to welcome such an important guest personally. Frustrated, the nun agrees but feels bad for not having yet obtained the boy's contact information. The priestess decides to take the protagonist to the VIP room so they can discuss matters more comfortably. They hold hands and are transported. In an instant, they arrive at a large, beautifully decorated hall. Bai mentions that she isn't very strong but can borrow power from the temple statue, whereas the boy, being truly powerful, completed the 5-star mission quickly. The protagonist is astonished, realizing that the last person to achieve such a feat was 10 years ago, and the level is far higher than he imagined. Bai begins explaining the rules of advanced level classes, stating that after completing the first class, students can utilize certain benefits. Su's eyes light up as he hears about everything he could achieve as a VIP student, realizing things are going better than expected. With some doubt, he asks if joining a guild is mandatory, and she explains it's not, though joining a group could provide protection and help in gaining experience. Su feels conflicted about whether to join a group, believing he's better off fighting alone, though he admits it could be dangerous at times. Moreover, his goal is limitless. He wants to develop his power to the point of becoming the king who dominates the entire region. He asks what guilds are available, and the woman mentions 2, with the Spirit Hunter Guild being the most favorable. The information leaves the boy in complete shock. Trying to avoid it, he asks if there's another guild. Bai mentions the Ghost Cloud Guild, which often competes with the Spirit Hunter Guild, but is relatively discreet. Su makes his decision and says he will join the second group, surprising the priestess with his choice. She explains she'll register him as a guild member, but says there's something he needs to know first. She reveals that the Ghost Cloud Guild is composed entirely of women. The protagonist's guild building is introduced. A girl lies reading a book, complaining that there's nothing interesting to do. She is Lin Yuyu, level 85, and the leader of the guild's rank B team. Annoyed, another young woman remarks that Yuyu isn't even in her group yet comes there to complain every day. She is Lin Yuyan, leader of the Ranka team. As their argument continues, a woman enters the room announcing the arrival of a new member. A blonde girl steps in and greets everyone. She introduces herself as Guchuquian, an ice elementalist. Yu comments that the newcomer is cute and approves her. Something catches the Ranka leader's attention, and she shouts while looking at a screen. Everyone asks what happened. She explains that a boy has just joined the guild. Still shocked, the woman says everyone is talking about this surprising arrival and demanding an explanation from the guild leader. They ask if there wasn't a restriction allowing only women, but Yuyan explains that while there is, since the boy arrived through a 5-star mission, he is eligible to join. Everyone is shocked that someone completed the 5-star mission and wonders why he didn't choose the Spirit Hunters Guild. The leader says she'll accept him, but if Su Yang causes any trouble, she'll find a way to kick him out. The boy's name surprises the blonde girl. She is asked if she knows him, but she replies that she has a friend with that name who should only be at level 1. A woman opens the door again and brings news that the Spirit Hunters group was destroyed in the Black Dragon's dungeon. Murong Su says she's unsure what the group was doing, that their destruction is a fact. This prompts the leader to reconsider her strategies and precautions for entering the giant forest. With her weapons destroyed, Murong explains that she took advantage of the situation to pressure others into raising prices, causing losses for the rival group. Far away, Zhao Ming vows to be the primary enemy of the Black Dragon and the Ice Witch. The rest of the group complains about being charged more than 14 billion for weapons, blaming the other man's weapon explosion for the increase. Frustrated, the leader kicks a long-haired man and tells him to act. He says some equipment has already been repurchased, and it's time to get back to business. Sitting at a table, the group discusses the strategy they used, which didn't work. Jotai, the meeting leader, says he can't believe it since he tested the strategy multiple times without failure and asks if the steps were followed precisely. The guild leader confirms they followed the instructions exactly, but the dragon they faced was entirely different from the one described in the strategy. Bluntly, Liu Si interrupts, accusing the Spirit Hunters of incompetence and blaming the exploration group for their mistakes. Tensions rise as he continues, saying that if they don't know how to lose, they shouldn't play, but Jutai calls him to order. Trying to understand what went wrong, the meeting leader says he'll review all the steps taken and investigate possible strategy errors during the dragon fight. Zhang Kexin, Zhuang Zhen, and the others agree with the leader's decision to investigate the next day. Suddenly, someone bursts through the door with a strong green energy. Everyone panics and asks who the person is. Jotai calms them, introducing him as Mr. Chen Lun. After being introduced, Chen Lun says he needs to know when the group plans to return to the Black Dragon Fortress. Apologizing, he adds he didn't mean to trouble the boy, but Su assures him it's fine and that he'll join the mission the next day. Lun unleashes a power in his hands, expressing eagerness to destroy the creature, as he has done countless times before. The group feels reassured, confident they are protected by individuals of various ranks, including 5-star members. Seeking revenge, the Spirit Hunters leader declares that if the other group was destroyed, it was deserved for deceiving others with false strategies. Night falls. Lying down, Su remarks that the downside of being in a group of girls is their endless chatting, which led him to block the group chat. Suddenly, a notification pops up on his screen about a bid for the diamond weapon. The protagonist is surprised by the high bids, realizing only the noble elf and the ice witch are competing. Seeing that the bids exceed 14 billion, he decides to accept the sale. With this, he earns some bonuses and fees, totaling over 15 billion. Pleased with the results, the boy decides to take a break and look for a new mission the next day, knowing how addictive the situation is. At 7 a.m., the alarm rings and Su quickly gets out of bed, realizing he has a mission in the dragon's dungeon involving the exploration team. He considers whether to accept the job, knowing the team is infamous as dungeon killers with many 5-star members. Despite this, he trusts his abilities and decides to confirm the mission. He is quickly transported to the dungeon and transforms into the dragon. Now transformed, the protagonist notes that some monsters have already resurrected and finds nothing surprising about it. Looking deeper into the dungeon, he notices the elf still trapped and wonders if the beast has awakened again. As his first move, he decides to assess who the exploration team members are. He realizes there are 5-star professionals, along with Lei Shan from the Spirit Hunters, who is also present. Su assesses that their combat powers are much stronger than before, but concludes that unless they strike the dragon's heart, it won't inflict significant damage. Before engaging, he commands his soldiers to go deal with the intruders. However, he instructs one to stay behind. The group moves forward using the same strategy to figure out what went wrong. Suddenly, a gray cloud appears, leaving everyone confused. When the smoke clears, they see numerous monsters flying over the area. Lei Shan remarks that this is exactly what happened before, but now there are even more monsters. Still, the leader insists that this won't affect the exploration team. They form a battle stance and are ordered to eliminate the smaller creatures and focus on the primary target. The battle begins and everyone uses various powers against the monsters. Seeing the group's strength, the dragon decides to act independently. Confused, the elf notes that the scene looks familiar but cannot understand why. She wonders why the dragon is behaving so differently from when she was captured. As he walks, Lei Shan comments that what's happening now wasn't part of the original strategy. Lun, cultivating his power, mutters that he'll add the dragon's body to his collection. He is interrupted by the Spirit Hunters Guild leader, who points out flaws in the strategy. Annoyed, Chen warns that if the man addresses him again, he'll have a new body get added to his collection. The chief intervenes, saying the master shouldn't joke like that as it's scaring their clients. Irritated, Lei Shan thinks the master won't be laughing when he encounters the black dragon. A shadow passes over the group, signaling the presence of the sought-after beast. Everyone panics, saying they hadn't expected it to act so soon. They quickly prepare for battle and receive instructions on what to do. A fierce battle erupts, with powers being unleashed on both sides and heavy damage inflicted. The dragon uses a damage reduction ability, surprising the group who hadn't anticipated this move. They notice that the boss has shifted some targets to the rear. The fight continues, with both sides exchanging powerful attacks. Su, as the dragon, remarks that the group's skills are too focused on defense and that they should experience his attack. Lun Chen becomes enraged, realizing one of his most powerful execution abilities is rendered useless. Furious, the dragon declares it's time for the master to reveal his weaknesses and sends him to hell. The group rushes toward the fallen man. They notice an annihilation move being used and question why it's deployed at the start rather than the end of the battle. Spotting surviving team members, the dragon concludes that with his annihilation breath, he can finish the group off entirely. Lun Chen rises from the ground, noting that the monster gains intelligence and tactics by exploiting others' vulnerabilities. He levitates and declares he'll take matters into his own hands. The master begins chanting and issuing commands as immense power envelops him. He quickly summons the Bone Dragon. Everyone wonders if he's truly a necromancer. It's explained that necromancers are rare and special classes, capable of reaching the level of dungeon bosses. Lun commands his dragon to destroy the enemies. A battle between dragons ensues. The black dragon proves superior, gaining the upper hand against its opponent. Still, the Bone Dragon doesn't relent, and the two creatures try to intimidate each other with their most powerful abilities. The group members are stunned, claiming they've never witnessed anything like it. Su acknowledges the opponent's formidable strength, but notes that he hasn't yet unleashed his full power. Using his immense strength, Su launches a massive attack on his adversary. After the devastating strike, the Bone Dragon crashes to the ground, and the protagonist wonders if that's all there is to it. Undeterred, the opponent rises and grabs Su, catching him off guard. Before he realizes it, the Bone Dragon is reborn from the ashes. Lun mocks the situation, saying his dragon will keep fighting for him, showcasing a true necromancer's skill. The Bone Dragon regains its strength and charges at its adversary once again. Su panics at the sight of the great skill and strength his opponent has brought this time, realizing that if things continue this way, he will lose the battle. Exhausted, he needs to recover quickly to keep fighting. He flies away and notices that his opponent lacks the ability to fly. Before he can think further, Lun orders his men to attack from a distance. Numerous powers are launched, but in the air, Su dodges them all with ease, enjoying himself. At that moment, the summoner is completely defenseless. Lun commands Marzus to return immediately and protect him. With his attention diverted, the Black Dragon takes advantage and unleashes a powerful attack toward Lun and the Bone Dragon. Lun's strength drops to 20%. However, Su feels it's still too much and wonders why the man wasn't destroyed in just a few seconds. The other group members, realizing the severity of the situation, retreat to a safer area carrying the injured Chen. They notice that Liu Si hasn't returned, but they're told to remain calm, as he should be back at any moment. Overhearing the conversation, Su blames himself for not realizing the assassin had been missing for a while. At that moment, Liu Si returns and everyone celebrates his survival. Mocking them, the dragon remarks that they're celebrating too soon. One of the Black Dragon's minions returns and announces his success. He explains that he attempted to retrieve the dragon's heart and didn't fail in his mission. The guild is baffled by how this could be possible. The dragon celebrates, declaring that with this material, victory is nearly certain. Suddenly, a bright yellow light fills the sky, leaving Su confused as a system alert announces an imminent level of opportunity. Another earthquake shakes the area, shocking everyone. They ask the priestess what it could be since it's not a normal occurrence, and she admits she never imagined that an aura's power could affect the real world. She expresses fear that something much greater could happen in this world. Meanwhile, during the battle with the dragon, the guild members are stunned, claiming they've never seen someone transcend in this way. Su realizes he has leveled up to 100. He examines all the attributes and skills now available to him, having reached this level so quickly. The system informs him that he has obtained the key, the heart of the dragon's slayer. Pleased with his progress, Su explains that his powers have increased significantly, but that the difficulty will naturally rise as well. The situation has now completely changed. The guild members watch him from afar and are met with a piercing glare. A man approaches the injured guild leader, shocked by his condition. He moves closer to the dragon and notices that the heart isn't in the master's possession. Everyone panics upon seeing him near the beast, shouting for him to retreat immediately. However, he decides to attack, claiming his great speed will ensure his survival. Without hesitation, the dragon stomps on Liu Si, killing him instantly. Lei Shan asks Captain Zhu what they should do, and the man begins to strategize. Finally, he orders everyone to retreat, declaring that continuing the fight under these conditions would be foolish. Some protest, but Zhu insists that fleeing is their only viable option. The dragon, amused by their decision, resolves not to let them escape. They reach the portal to return to reality, but are blocked by the beast. Without hesitation, Su unleashes his annihilation breath, sending a massive burst of fire toward the group. Devastated, the group laments that their mana has dropped drastically, and that they never expected their strong defenses to crumble with a single attack. The group leader instructs everyone to store valuable items in their infinity rings to minimize losses. Refusing to give up, Lun declares that he won't stop and vows to kill the dragon 1,000 times if necessary. He revives himself and announces he'll use a new power to destroy the enemy. A new ability is unleashed, resurrecting all the previously defeated creatures to fight for him. The spirits begin advancing towards Su. However, the dragon is prepared and defends against the initial attacks. After taking them all down, Su charges toward the master and confronts him directly. Mocking Su, Lun boasts about being immortal, claiming that even if he fails, he'll return to kill the beast completely. He continues taunting, saying he'll torture the dragon a few more times. Enraged, the dragon vows not to let Lun escape easily and attempts to use his new ability. A massive firepower is unleashed. Amidst the flames, the master begins to burn, screaming in pain and declaring how much it hurts. Yet he promises that the dragon will feel far worse next time. Determined, Su declares that there won't be a next time. The master begins to weaken, realizing his HP has dropped to 0, and his body starts decomposing. With no chance of resurrection, the man vanishes amidst the flames. Automatically, Su's experience points increase significantly. Back in the real world, the guild members mourn what happened. A man rushes into the room and they ask if he has any news about Mr. Chen. The man says he has no information but confirms that Chen disappeared without a trace, suggesting he must be dead. The news leaves everyone extremely worried and shocked. They begin reflecting on the dragon's level and mechanics, given that it managed to kill even the master, one of their strongest members. Quickly, the leader states that no problem is unsolvable and that they'll await the headquarters' decision. However, he wonders why only the master was killed and whether this was due to a special mechanism or if the dragon intentionally let the group go. Far away, Su relaxes with a drink, saying he's exhausted and that this level required significant effort. But he notes that the hard work has paid off handsomely, making him much richer. Despite the wealth, certain items captivate him more. Thrilled with the weapon he acquired, he remarks that his luck is incredible and that with this ability he can instantly clear all 4 stages. His first transformation is into a warrior demon, raising his level to 40. Despite this, he feels it's a waste of his extensive experience. He asks the system if Chen Lun is truly dead, and it confirms that he is. The system assures him that his decision at the time was the correct one. Su reflects that had he not killed the master, he might be dead now. But given all that happened, he believes the adventure team won't hesitate to come back and fight again. Curious, he asks what happens to the Black Dragon when he's absent, and the system provides a detailed explanation. Su clutches the heart he took during the battle, observing it while pondering the fight that just ended. The system quickly provides details about the weapon, explaining its potential benefits and listing all its abilities. Thinking about upcoming challenges, Su concludes that killing the Black Dragon and changing to a part-time profession is the next step for advancing further. Without hesitation, he accepts the mission for his second transformation. Elsewhere, a priestess waits by a door and someone asks if she's expecting someone. A figure approaches. She asks how she can help, and it's Su, surprised to see the woman waiting for him. The woman explains that she's always notified when VIP members approach and personally greets them. Upon arriving, Su accepts the 5-star level transformation and the second change occurs. Analyzing the task, he thinks they're intentionally adding obstacles to make it harder for him, though he doesn't feel it's particularly challenging. Surprised, the woman admits she assumed he would choose another 5-star mission. He asks if she has a map of the upcoming silver tier instances. Quickly, she retrieves the map and hands it to him, and he thanks her. He prepares to leave, but the priestess asks him to wait a moment. She explains that a severe accident occurred in a dungeon, increasing its level and resulting in a professional's disappearance. Su thanks her for her concern and assures her he'll be careful. He then rushes toward the mission site, encountering many people along the way. He wonders if it's really worth it for a silver tier mission. After running through 7 or 8 dungeons, he faces difficulties and questions whether his luck was all spent earlier when he found new weapons. Examining the map, he evaluates the entrance to the Cave of Suffering, which should be ahead. However, the area is crowded with people. Looking closer, Su recognizes someone familiar in the group ahead. Among them is Gu Xiuqin, and he doesn't understand why she's there. She's talking to someone, and Su notices it's Wang Fei, who explains to her that the dungeon doesn't allow entry to the Ghost Cloud Guild. Hearing Wang Fei mention the guild's name, Su finds it coincidence since it's the same guild he recently joined. Familiar with the situation, he believes it will be easy to negotiate entry into the dungeon. Resolute, he approaches and announces that he's not leaving the dungeon. As Su approaches, the rest of the men gather around the young woman, urging her to go with them. However, They're interrupted by someone wielding a large knife. It's Helan who commands the two to shut up or she'll cut off their heads. Confident, Wang Fei believes there's no need to fear since they have a level 3 member in their group. Lai Zhen chimes in, saying that women shouldn't be so presumptuous. Fearlessly, the young woman confronts the muscular man, telling him he doesn't understand the basics of good manners. Despite the argument, she knows she could lose if she faced the group head-on. However, if she strikes first, she might gain the upper hand. Before she can act, Su arrives and announces that he has something to say. Du Xuchen is surprised to see her friend, but doesn't understand why he's provoking the larger men. Wang Fei remarks that it's great to see the boy again, as Su asks why Fei seems to be everywhere. The strongest man mocks Su's provocation, suggesting that he kneel and beg for forgiveness. Su completely ignores the man and instead greets his friend, infuriating the brute. Helan asks how the girl knows Su, and Guxu Ikin explains that they used to be classmates. Sizing him up, Helan assumes Su is of a lower level and shouldn't be provoking high-level men. After Su explains his level 2 transformation, Helan is shocked to learn he's already at level 40, unable to comprehend how it's possible. Wang Fei interjects, calling Su trash and claiming he'll die. He demands Su reveal this personal information so everyone can see his level. Laughing, Su mocks Fei for being only level 10, adding that if Fei were below level 2, he wouldn't bother. But now Su's ready to fight. With a single swift move, Su sends Fei flying, ordering him to return to the city. Fei's HP drops to 0 as Su gains 100 experience points. The other group members rush to Fei, asking if he's okay. Lai Zhen steps forward to attack Su Yang. Calling him a child, Lai declares that Su will pay for killing his companion. Su pays no mind to the threat. He even calls out to Yelan, inviting her to join the fight with the brute so he can finish the battle sooner. Showing her true colors, Yelan remarks that Su is bold but also arrogant, even as a friend of Xiao. She joins forces with Lai Zhen, and the two prepare to teach Su a lesson. Zhen launches a combined attack with Helan's power, while Su simply observes. In a flash, Su evades and dashes away, astonishing everyone with his speed. The Thunder Tiger Fist is activated, leaving Lai Zhen stunned as the powerful strike sends him flying, screaming. But Helan continues the fight, attempting to strike Su. Before attacking, she analyzes Su's sword, concluding it can only be wielded by someone of gold or platinum level, confirming his strength. On the mountain, a plume of smoke rises, catching everyone's attention. Injured, Lai Zhen concedes defeat for now, but vows not to stop until he kills Su. Raising his sword, Su announces he's in a hurry. He unleashes another power, commanding Lai to disappear. With everything ablaze, Su asks if anyone else wants to fight. Backing down, Helan admits she can't fight Su now. Su reassures her, saying it's fine since they're in the same guild, and he doesn't want things to escalate. She's shocked to realize they're in the same group. Su asks her to apologize to the group leader on his behalf, but insists he'll be the first to enter the dungeon. A system notifies him that he has entered the Cave of Pain and that the transformation will begin. Aside from his dragon transformation, this is Su's first time entering a dungeon. Surveying the area, he spots a monster at the entrance. It's a level 35 goblin with archer skills. Su feels slightly pathetic about facing such a challenge as his first opponent and grips his sword. But another goblin sneaks up behind him. Screaming, the goblin attacks, but Su manages to defend himself. As Su continues defeating and killing monsters, his experience points steadily increase. Realizing the risks and the eerie nature of the dungeon, he decides to move quickly to avoid falling into any traps. He reflects that in previous battles his power was sufficient, but he'll need to refine his skills if he encounters stronger opponents. Thus, Su decides to practice his Demon Blade skill using his strongest powers. As he ventures deeper into the dungeon, more goblins appear to attack him. A Demon Blade shield protects him. Without hesitation, Su focuses and releases another powerful attack across the area. Nearby, more monsters observe the scene and prepare to attack. Now it's time for him to launch a Demon Blade arrow. Several arrows are fired toward the monsters. Su remarks that he's always been passive in his approach, which frustrated him, but now he's ready to strike back. He rushes further into the dungeon, heading for the boss room while being pursued by enemies. To defend himself, he hurls another weapon at the approaching foes. Eliminating many of his pursuers, Su celebrates how versatile this skill is with countless applications. Before he can proceed, another monster appears. It's the frozen giant tiger, the dungeon boss. Observing the beast, Su chuckles, finding it amusing that the boss is just a small tiger. The creature growls and demands to know how a human dares trespass into its territory, but the protagonist remains unfazed. Calmly, Su decides to use his new transformation technique. He unleashes a powerful attack at the tiger with minimal effort. Panicking, the beast roars, and the system announces that Su has defeated the tiger, earning 6,321 experience points. Su celebrates his instant victory over the boss in under 3 minutes. He continues to the next dungeon. Upon exiting, he notices Helan and Xao hiding nearby. When he asks why, they tell him not to worry about them and to move along. The red-haired girl wonders aloud what kind of monster Su is, completing the mission in just 5 minutes, while her friend admits she doesn't understand either. Moving even faster, Su defeats the leader of the next dungeon, earning another 6,187 points and completing another 5-star mission. The system notifies him that a hidden mission has been unlocked, catching his attention. The system explains the mission and the rewards for completing it. Analyzing it, Su finds the proposal tempting and quickly agrees to participate. The rules state that the task takes place in an advanced desert area with a level 40+ monster, which no one has ever completed. To participate, Su decides to unlock his Starlight-grade weapon, but he needs additional items to activate its defense. For this, they'll need to visit the Mechanism Pavilion, where they hold strategies and extra information about weapons. Su wonders how they'll react when they see he has a golden membership card. He arrives in Channeling City feeling a bit nervous due to the vast array of strategies available at the pavilion. Moreover, since he sold all the group's items to advance, he feels a bit embarrassed. Some people argue, insisting it's their turn for service. Owona tries to calm them, urging everyone to remain patient and wait for their number. Su notices how crowded the place is. Scanning the area, he spots Jutai and Liu Sai. One of them asks if the lost weapon can be reimbursed. The other responds that it can't, pointing out that the leaders have already been patient with the group since Chenlun's death. Frustrated, the young man mutters about working for months to regain the weapon and throws things around. Stu notices and asks who's throwing objects in the area. Liu hears him, approaches, and asks if Su has a problem with it. The protagonist calmly responds that he does. Irritated, Liu warns that he won't tolerate a novice talking back and threatens to send him back to square one, but Su simply laughs, further enraging him. Zhao intervenes, advising Liu to maintain his composure and not pick fights with a young boy. Feigning innocence, Su asks if this is how customers are treated at the pavilion, expressing his disappointment. The older man apologizes and says they don't sell strategies for lower-level dungeons. Triumphantly, Su pulls out his golden card and shows it to the duo. Liu scoffs, asking if the card is meant to intimidate them, while Su is puzzled that he doesn't recognize its significance. As they argue, a man approaches, looking at the card. Zhao wonders why that butler is there. Introducing himself as Jia Yu, level 120, the Grand Butler of Yanfeng's first city, he quickly commands attention. Without hesitation, Jia Yu strikes Liu, who demands to know what he's doing. The older man apologizes for the trouble caused to Su, introduces himself, drawing attention as a significant figure. Curious, he asks if the boy, despite his youth, obtained the black card by reaching 5-star status, and Su confirms it. Irritated, the butler orders Zhao to resolve the situation immediately. He then instructs Liu to follow him to discuss the next dungeon. Listening in, Su realizes that the Tianji Pavilion must be preparing for its next move. Jia Yu asks how he can assist the guests, and Su explains that he's there to purchase some additional gems. Despite their high cost, Su states that money is no issue and that he'll pay in full for everything. Without delay, the butler presents several gems and asks Su to wait a few minutes. Thoughtful and eager to explore, Su considers taking a stroll around the temple. However, he recalls that the exploration team might be preparing to revisit the Black Dragon's sanctuary. Two men walk past him, discussing their fear of entering the dungeon and dying, and Su hears everything. As expected, he realizes that Chenlun's death has completely shattered the exploration team's morale. After walking a bit, Su approaches a place where he seeks Mr. Guiyang. Everyone is surprised to see a visitor. He is greeted by Murong Su and a Yu from Yuyan. Su greets them and inquires if they have any equipment ready. The pink-haired girl becomes instantly smitten with him and asks if he has a girlfriend. She is interrupted by another girl who explains to Su that with his level, he doesn't need to visit the store and can go directly to the commercial mall. Embarrassed, Su remarks that this is the second time he's heard that today and isn't sure how to respond. He then shows his weapon and asks if it qualifies to be in such a place, leaving everyone shocked at its level. One of the men remarks that it's been a long time since he's seen a weapon of that caliber. As a gesture of trust, Su says he has faith in the master and hands the weapon to him. Without delay, Mr. Guiyang lifts the weapon, vowing not to disappoint him. Guiyang begins forging and the heat spreads through the area. Su, watching the stars forming from the flames, wonders if this is the special effect of enhancing a weapon, as she has never seen such a marvel before. Yu, also observing, comments on how splendid it is. Standing in the distance, Su muses that Guiyang doesn't seem impressed by such spectacles. The pink-haired girl teases her friend for staring too much at Su and falling for him, while the other tries to defend herself. Watching their playful banter, Su questions if he chose the wrong guild. Moments later, the blacksmith announces that he's finished, showing the weapon in his hands. Su is amazed considering how much he wasted when he tried. He asks the blacksmith about the cost, and the man replies that it would typically be 1 billion, but since the work revitalized him, he'll be free. One of the girls exclaims that it's unbelievable. Su refuses to take advantage of an elder and insists on paying the 1 billion fee, promising to visit regularly. The blacksmith admires his character, agreeing and saying he'll be waiting for Su's next visit. Meiyu jokes that Guiyang missed a chance to profit, spending 1 billion while smiling, and adds that she's a bit infatuated. Another girl wonders if Su belongs to the Novel S Guild. On the outskirts of Tianling City, Su gazes at the mountain, knowing it's the mission site, a place meant for those above the second transformation. The attribute requirements include 300 points in spirit speed, which could be met by using attribute potions and distributing remaining attribute points. With his current strength, he could rival a 4th transformation powerhouse. He carries 3 elixirs: the meditative, the rapid, and the celestial speed elixir. With a battle cry and his sword in hand, Su leaps into a pit. He continues falling, passing through level 45, where phantom bats dwell, and level 44, home to the resentful soldier. Using shadow form, he swiftly takes down the bats, eliminating 2 at once. The warrior's most basic skill, the double strike, empowered by a Starshine level weapon, proves immensely powerful. Realizing where he is, Su finds himself surrounded by bats, all staring at him. But he wasn't planning to traverse the map honestly, so he intended to use the old method and cross it in one go. A demonstration of firepower. Thus, a massive explosion erupts at the base of the mountain. Near a cave, he comments that a terrible beast resides within. Based on the mission design, he estimates its level to be no less than 50 and wonders how many strikes it will take. Entering the cave, he notes there are no monsters in his path. Seeing a strong light emanating from deep inside, he remarks that it's there. A light forces him to close his eyes. When he opens them, he finds himself in a place surrounded by stalagmites. He stands in an open circle with the beast lying at its center. Looking at it, he notices that aside from its name and level, no other information is visible. He realizes he'll need to purchase a high-level skill book. One must never underestimate a boss with unknown information, so he prepares for a tough battle and charges at the beast, striking its head. The beast rises, roaring. Su already knew it wouldn't be defeated with a single blow. After its roar, the beast begins launching spike-like projectiles from its mouth. He dodges the stakes falling toward him. Using his sword, he attacks the monster again, striking from all sides. Su Yang prepares to deliver his final blow. He knows he mustn't give it a chance to retaliate and aims to reduce its health in one decisive strike. He hits the beast in its chest, signaling its defeat and earning 4,321 experience points. With the beast's defeat, he obtains the ancient key. In addition to the ancient key, he also gains rotten meat, intriguing him as it suggests the beast's former owner was incredibly powerful. However, he decides to set it aside and return to submit the class change mission. He'll investigate its use later. Several notifications of completed missions, gained attributes, and an unlocked level appear. Su now has to distribute his points equally between strength and spirit. That incredible base attribute has already crushed third transformation professionals, but the thought of new transformations excites him. The dual attribute mixed damage combined with the spectral mark would make his attacks much stronger. Even for a platinum-level dungeon boss, it's a legendary skill. A woman appears, congratulating him on completing the second transformation and explaining its benefits. Su thinks these benefits are rather common. She asks about his plans, and he replies that he'll take 2 days to rest and balance work with leisure. She agrees, noting that rest is important. But resting doesn't mean idling, so Su Yang plans to visit the Tianji Pavilion to purchase some items to prepare for dragon slaying. In the office, a man asks Zhu Tai if 30 exploration team members are enough for the cleanup. Zhao confirms, but mentions the special mechanism. Jie Yu reassures him not to worry, as headquarters has already prepared a countermeasure. Each member will receive a Jade Life ring to ensure survival. The man remarks on the ring's value and thanks his superior. The superior comments that if he weren't busy, he'd personally kill the dragon to stretch his muscles. A voice from the background says the black dragon isn't for him to handle. Everyone is startled by the presence and asks the young woman what she's doing there. Since the young mistress is present, they should greet her properly. Kneeling, the elder apologizes for not greeting her sooner, explaining that he was unaware of her visit. She responds that her visit was unannounced and must remain secret. Later gestures to sit, and her attendant rushes to bring her a chair. She remarks that she'll completely tame the black dragon. Yu asks if this is the master's wish, and the young woman retorts, asking if he dare challenge her father's wishes. He insists he wouldn't and promises to issue orders immediately. Rising from her chair, the young woman requests the black dragon's information and a rune to rest. The man comments that he didn't expect her arrival, calling it a miscalculation. Frightened, another man asks if she's the daughter of the youngest genius from the Global Masters Association. He confirms it. The association is a super organization specializing in capturing exotic beasts worldwide, and the young woman has extraordinary talent. This time, she came secretly, likely to tame the black dragon before anyone else. If successful, she'll undoubtedly become the continent's top beast master. He instructs everyone to follow her orders and warns them not to interfere with her hunt. Another mentions fetching the dragon's basic guide, while Liu Si questions how anyone would dare oppose her. When they try to retrieve the guide, they realize it was purchased the day before by Su Yang and wonder why he seems to be causing trouble on purpose. Jia asks why someone of his level would be interested in dragons, while another wonders if they should request the book's return. The man replies no, explaining that they shouldn't offend a temple VIP. He suggests finding other versions of the dragon's information. Later, at Su's house, the warrior remarks that the book cost 51 million gold coins. Tianji certainly knew how to do business, and he hopes it's worth the price. Flipping through the pages, he finds information about the Black Dragon. He finds it odd that there's no mention of the Dragon Boss's 80% dual damage reduction trait. The Tianji Pavilion shouldn't have overlooked that. The details include everything from the dragon's habitats, such as caves and dungeons, to its stages and their specifics. Across Longshan, only 3 black dragons have been discovered, 2 of which were already eliminated, leaving only the boss. Yet, the information about the defeated dragon doesn't match. He decides to review the details more thoroughly and notices a special note about the piece of rotten meat. The pavilion is willing to pay a high price for it. So Gang is surprised and, given the announced value, feels it's enough to overlook the possibility of people demanding exorbitant prices. If the dragon consumed the rotten meat, it would instantly ascend to radiant light strength and likely advance directly to the 4th level. However, this is too dangerous to allow. It's better to kill the dragon and move on. Still, after learning about the benefits, he feels reluctant. When a boss previously tamed by the host is killed by them, it becomes a 100% loyal subordinate. After hearing this, Su wonders if he should tame the dragon. The system replies that it's a standard operation and advises not to get too excited. Su remarks that it's a dragon and not many people can tame one. He imagines summoning it during guild wars, a thrilling thought. However, an ordinary weapon wouldn't bring it down, and it would take ages to drain its health. If someone challenged him mid-battle, it would spell disaster. After reassessing his leveling strategy, he realizes he needs to level up quickly. While contemplating his options, his guild sends him a message. They're summoning him to the giant forest, which is also a diamond-level dungeon, exactly what he needs. He decides to join them. Upon seeing who accepted, the girls become intrigued and let out a shout. In the chat, everyone starts talking about him. Tatsuhan teases in Yu about her feelings, prompting Su to comment that they're starting again. Yuban asks Su if he's sure about entering the dungeons, warning that the monsters could be dangerous. Before she can finish, he confidently replies that he'll go first. At the Profession Transfer Temple, someone asks their leader why he looks so upset. Lei Shen explains that he fought hard to reach level 99 and just received a level 5 job change mission with the necessary materials located in the giant forest. Lei Dan remarks that the giant forest is as challenging as the Black Dragon and that their current levels aren't sufficient to handle it. Hyun Yuan brings up Yuman's presence in the Black Forest, and Zhao Ming notes that this will further escalate the rivalry between the two guilds. The man suggests there's still a way to prevent the guild from obtaining the tickets. Smiling, he says that since there's nothing left to lose, they should kill the boys and make their team feel the same despair they did. In the giant forest, where the recommended level is above 90, the gate will open in 35 minutes. Su Yang observes the crowd and realizes that since the forest and the dragon's fortress are on the same level, the girl chose this moment to challenge it. The trial dungeon is a task organized by the Transfer Temple in Yangfeng City, open once a year. Only 5th turn guilds or higher can enter. The guild that wins gains access to abundant resources, making it highly appealing to all guilds. Yuvian and Ling Xiu are competing for entry into the trial dungeon. Ling Xiu is stronger but suffered losses in levels and equipment after being defeated, which allowed the other guild to grow. Most of the people present aren't a real threat. While discussing this, the Ling Xiu guild arrives, with their leader declaring the dungeon as claimed by them and demanding everyone leave. The other people start running and gossiping about the guild's rise. Su notices that they don't seem ready to enter the dungeon and realizes they're waiting for someone. If their plan is to block the guild from entering the dungeon by occupying the area without doing anything, it's a despicable tactic. One of the men asks Su if he didn't hear the leader's command to leave. Su responds that he's just exploring the area and isn't interested in their business. Irritated, the man yells, asking if Su is disrespecting him, and orders him to leave, shoving his shoulder in the process. Before he can do anything else, Yang grabs his hand, twists it, and bends his fingers backward, forcing him to sit down in pain. Yang then throws him aside, sending him crashing into a tree with such force that it breaks on impact. The man is flung an undetermined distance, left incapacitated. The leader demands to know who threw the man so far, and Yang calmly replies that he was just defending himself, assuming he was about to be attacked. Zhao Ming, enraged by this, questions what kind of behavior is to nearly kill someone under the guise of self-defense, but the leader interrupts him. The leader decides to let the matter slide, acknowledging that one of his men attacked first and asks Yang to leave it at that. Yang agrees. Ming asks if it's really okay to let things go, and the leader responds that their goal is to confront the other group, not to create additional problems. The group moves toward the entrance, and Ming asks if the boy is a Yuyan recruit. The leader replies that he isn't, since the group consists only of women. So can't help but wonder what kind of mess the Yuyan guild leader, Lei, got herself into. When Ling Xiu visits Yuyan, they inform her that they've already claimed the entrance to the giant forest dungeon and demand her group head elsewhere. She replies that this is absurd, pointing out that Ling Xiao's group was recently devastated and lacks the strength to even scratch a diamond-level dungeon. Understanding the situation, the leader asks if they intend to start a clan war and what benefit their actions would bring. The man responds that their aim is to drag her group down with them, preventing them from attempting the dungeon trial, ensuring no one enters the forest. At that moment, while the man is speaking, Su launches an ice attack at him, which he successfully blocks. He asks why she attacked without the leader's orders. She argues that if they're going to fight, there's no need to waste words. Ling Xiao's group prepares for battle, with their leader eager to finally face off against the group of women. Yang arrives on the scene and asks the leader if he really said no one could enter the giant forest. Making a grand entrance, Yang questions who the man thinks he is to make such declarations. X2 and you are captivated, one of them admiring his boldness in provoking Lei Shan. Xu Yan remarks that the man she'd argued with earlier has finally shown up, while the bard notes that Yuan's first male member has appeared. The leader comments that she's finally seeing the boy in person. Su remarks that it might have been better for her if he had stayed hidden, and she agrees, still skeptical. Yuan ponders the facts surrounding the boy, his VIP temple status, star-tier equipment, and whether she should question him about all of it. A man from Ling Xiao's group grows jealous of Yu's attention toward the warrior, frustrated that his attempts to gain her interest have always failed. Ming, concerned, tells the leader that the boy clearly has ties to the rival group and doesn't seem like an outsider, but rather a formal member. Furious, the leader asks the warrior if he was mocking him earlier. Yang, taunting, asks what he'll do if that's the case. An arrow is fired at Yang, but he intercepts it effortlessly. Yang shifts his stance and declares that he'll return the favor. He gathers momentum, catches the arrow bare-handed, and hurls it back at the archer who initially fired it. The arrow strikes Zhao Ming precisely, leaving him stunned by the accuracy. Ling Xiao flies into a rage, declaring that the boy has just landed himself in serious trouble. Yang finally pieces together the situation. The men's group is there solely to stir up trouble. He asks if they think everyone has time to waste on nonsense like this, and if they realize that time is money and valuable for gaining experience. The leader dismisses Yang's words as nonsense and declares he'll kill him. Yang pulls out a few scrolls, stating that he'll teach them a lesson. Seeing the scrolls, the leader quickly orders the mages to activate a defensive barrier and damage reduction abilities across the entire group. Ling Xiao mocks Su, saying he might act tough for going solo, but he's not strong enough to break through the powerful defensive barrier they activated. Yang asks if they're serious, then begins casting a damage spell that summons a vortex of massive spikes from the sky. Yu struggles to hold her dress against the forceful wind, and Su remarks that the spell is an elemental wave akin to a prehistoric catastrophe. Ling Xiu is alarmed by such power and wonders if the scroll is of legendary rank. After completing his incantation, Yang unleashes the spell. Countless spikes rain down from the sky, making the attack resemble a colossal lightning strike. Emerging from the smoke, Yang announces that the obstacles are gone and asks if they can now enter the dungeon, revealing that the entire group of men has been annihilated. The women in the group are stunned by the sheer power demonstrated before them. Yuan asks how the spirit hunters were killed so quickly, and Su replies that even a legendary scroll shouldn't have been able to wipe out a Ranka guild. Jin Muzi approaches the two, showing a drawing of the incident that leaves them in awe. They realize that in addition to using a scroll, Yang employed his skill as well. One of the women praises his artistic skills, while the other examines the drawing, noting the numerous blades around Yang that resemble condensed magic. The leader concludes that Yang used a legendary skill to shatter the defensive magic, created chaos with multiple spells, and finish off the rest using the magical blade. Xu points out that someone with level 58 abilities wouldn't typically harm Lei Shan, but with Yang's equipment, it might be possible. With all this, they conclude that the young man is undoubtedly a young master from a super guild. Yang approaches and asks if they can now enter the dungeon, to which the leader agrees. Inside the forest, Yang remarks that the towering trees confirm this is indeed giant territory. Yuyan advises everyone to stay close due to the complex terrain. While walking, one of the women approaches Yang and asks if they'll be able to clear the dungeon and if he'll protect her if anything happens. Smiling, he agrees. Along the way, a rabbit suddenly jumps out of a bush, startling the group. Nervously, the mage admits it frightened her, but right behind it, a two-headed raptor, level 89, appears, throwing her into a panic. The leader quickly takes charge, calming everyone and switching to defense mode. As if that wasn't enough, a giant bear, level 95, emerges, causing more panic among the women. Yu pleads with Yang to save her. Yang swiftly attacks the bear and asks why there's only one tank in the group. The woman responds that high-level female tanks are hard to find. Yuyan instructs the supports to focus on Yang, while she finishes off one of the raptor's heads. Impressed by the women's support skills, Yang notices his strength doubling thanks to their buffs. With the effects in place, he leaps high and delivers a fatal strike, landing a critical hit on the bear's neck. Fighting side by side, the leader remarks that their chances of completing the dungeon have increased thanks to him. Yang expresses his gratitude for the opportunity, noting that it's his first time at group. As they delve deeper into the dungeon, they face numerous challenges and monsters, all overcome through excellent teamwork. Eventually, they encounter the area's final boss, a hybrid giant level 98. However, following a new strategy, they stand a chance of defeating it. Yang confidently says his male intuition tells him everything will turn out fine. Yu wonders how he can have such unwavering confidence. The tank, feeling motivated, urges them to follow Yang's lead, and they charge into battle. The group prepares their spells while the tank and warrior engage the giant. Meanwhile, in another room, Zhu Tai reports to the manager about a conflict between Ling Xiao and Yuyan in the giant forest. The manager asks about the outcome, and Tai replies that Ling Xiao was destroyed. Jie Yu remarks that it was expected, noting how people act irrationally when desperate, and states that Yuyan has secured this year's qualification for the Secret Realm trial. Tai adds that he has additional information about the Black Dragon's secret realm, causing the man to nervously ask what happened. In the battle against the giant, the tanker delivers the final blow, eliminating it completely, and the group celebrates their victory. Lin remarks that the warrior could have dealt the final strike, but the young man, smiling, reveals that he didn't want to and thought she might need the rewards more than he did. She thanks him. His smile fades when the girls surround him, calling him cute, wanting to be his friends and touching him as if they'd never seen him before. Zhu calls them shameless, while Yan points out that they should check the rewards. They receive 2 platinum-level items and 1 diamond-level item. She asks Su if he wants anything, offering to help with the distribution, but he declines, thanking her and thinking that his storage is already full of diamond-level items. The girl reveals that they obtained the necessary materials for the 5th transfer mission, securing the ticket for the Secret Realm trial. Excited, Mei Yu suggests to the guild leader that they celebrate their achievement with a hearty meal, and the leader agrees. They invite Yang to join the event, catching him off guard. But just as he's about to respond, the system notifies him of a challenger's presence and asks if he wants to connect. Surprised by the message, Yang wonders how someone could challenge him so soon, considering the exploration group acted earlier than expected. Shortly after, he apologizes for not being able to attend the celebration and says he must leave immediately. Activating a portal, he vanishes, leaving the girls in shock. In the secret realm, Su observes that many monsters have already been defeated and decides to check out the challenger. The challenger is an elf wielding a sword surrounded by flames, and Su wonders how it's just one person, growing curious about his appearance. The dragon notices that a magical court elf named Alcaray Lorenz, level 140, has entered the dungeon. The elf easily slaughters the region's monsters, and the dragon praises his extraordinary power, deciding to send elite monsters to test him. A level 98 dragon priest offers the elf as a sacrifice to Lord Ados, while a level 95 blood dragon warrior and a level 96 kobold captain launch their attacks. Alcaray asks if Atos is the Black Dragon's name and says that for such a weak creature, only a few forbidden spells would suffice to kill it. With incredible ease, the elf cuts down all 3 monsters, mocking them as too easy. Wiping their blood from his face, he calls them lowly creatures and states that he came here solely for the princess. He summons a giant stone golem to clear his path and kill all the remaining monsters, leaving the dragon astonished. Noting the elf's words about rescuing the princess, the dragon decides to wake her for more information. The dragon taps the iron bars of her cage with his claw, calling for the princess to wake up. Groggy and disoriented, the princess is startled by the massive dragon eye staring at her through the bars, asking if she's the princess of the elf kingdom. Terrified, she asks how he can talk, to which he replies that she never asked before and that she's focusing on the wrong topic. She comments that the dragon seems oblivious to the world, only knowing how to eat and sleep, and now he's suddenly intelligent. She asks how anyone could accept that. The princess starts wondering if something strange happened and, alarmed, calls him a perverted dragon, making him question how the conversation took such a turn. Losing his patience, the dragon decides to scare her, threatening to eat her if she doesn't answer his question. Pressing and bending the cage bars with his claws, the princess finally reveals her name, Lilith Savraya, the 6th daughter of the Honorable Queen Savraya. The dragon recognizes the name, recalling it from the basic dragon guide, noting that the elf, dragon, and giant kingdoms belong to the ultra nations of the subspace. It's said that among these realms, only the elf kingdom maintains friendly relations with humans. He's impressed by the princess's significant heritage, learning that Queen Savraya rules the elf kingdom. Ados informs the princess that someone from her kingdom has come to rescue her, bringing her momentary joy. Her expression turns to terror when she recognizes the elf coming to save her, and Ados immediately takes notice. She explains that the elf's family consists of cruel people, and she would rather remain imprisoned with the dragon for the rest of her life than be rescued by him, as he had wronged her. The dragon asks how he could have done such a thing to her, and she responds that the Lorenz family is the most powerful in the elf kingdom, and even the queen cannot punish them. Understanding the complexity of the princess's story, the dragon decides to exploit the situation, telling her he plans to hand her over to Alcaray. The princess, terrified, declares that she would rather die than fall into the elf's hands. Handing her over seemed logical, since the elf could annihilate them both with ease due to his tier 6 power. The dragon then proposes that she reveal the elf's weakness, and only then will he agree to help her. The princess, with wide eyes and a flushed face, pleads for his help, promising to reveal her opponent's weakness. The dragon reflects that he wanted to humble her, but perhaps went too far. She explains that the Lawrence family possesses natural spiritual power and exceptional magical talent, but their physical strength is comparable to Tier 1. Although their magic is powerful, their bodies lack physical strength. The dragon calls the elf a glass cannon, noting the unbalanced status build. To compensate for this flaw, the elf's body is protected by a magical barrier. The princess concludes that despite revealing the weakness, nothing will change and Alcaray will capture her and turn her into his slave, leaving the dragon somewhat awkward. The dragon agrees that she's probably right and realizes he must consume the rotten meat to advance to the Radiant Moon stage, though doing so would increase the dungeon's level. His body has developed since reaching the Starshine stage, but he wonders if he can further enhance his attributes through armor. At this moment, the dragon considers whether the Dragon Slayer sword he's holding can be transformed into usable equipment in his dragon form. The princess asks the dragon if he could simply let her go to prevent her from being captured by the elf. But as she looks around, she notices her raptor is gone. It reappears and she questions whether it had fled, glancing around nervously. The dragon reveals he equipped the Shadow Bloodlust and activated its ability, immediately entering shadow form. Endos realizes his strength and spirit have increased hundreds of times, and that the gap in basic attribute points has been compensated, allowing him to start the quest. Alcaray approaches the dragon's lair, demanding that the princess be handed over immediately, promising to consider sparing his life. When there's no response, the elf calls the dragon a coward for staying silent and claims this is a waste of his time. The mage declares that he might use a forbidden spell to clear the map, kill everyone, and then revive the princess, altering her memories. Revealing his true intentions, Alcaray says he wants the princess now and begins casting the forbidden spell. The dragon calls him a pervert, remarking that all his stereotypes about elves have been shattered as he crushes the opponent with one of his claws. Alcaray suffers a near-fatal blow, left with only 6% of his health, and is thrown far away. The mage, stunned, wonders how the dragon appeared so suddenly and shattered his barrier with a single hit, leaving him on the brink of death. Ados, in a mocking tone, declares that no common sense applies to an exceptional being like himself. He then uses a fire breath ability, completely incinerating the elf without leaving even ashes behind. After defeating the elf, Atos checks his battle rewards. He finds legendary items, banishment and summoning spells, and a legendary scroll, the Guardian of Nature Scroll, which allows the user to withstand 7 Tier 6 attacks without breaking. The dragon notes that these high-level spells typically require more mana than most mages possess, which is why they create scrolls. Despite his victory, he laments not obtaining any part of the elf's armor, which would have been very useful since it was Starshine tier. The princess, left behind, wonders if the dragon has gone to fight Alcaray or left entirely. She questions whether she's genuinely concerned for him or simply afraid. Adas lands violently in his nest, shaking the princess's cage and startling her. The princess asks about him and the elf, and the dragon explains that he used an invisibility skill, attacked stealthily, and then burned him to ashes. She is surprised that a black dragon can use invisibility, noting that this ability is typically exclusive to rainbow dragons, and concludes that the mysteries surrounding him only deepen. The princess then asks why he's staring at her, and he questions why she has no strength, given that royal elves naturally possess immense magical power. She replies that she bears a curse imposed by the ancient king in ancient times, which blocks her magical talent and shortens her lifespan. The dragon is stunned by her story and reflects that, without his cheat ability, he would have been useless. The dragon would have been killed and the princess captured by the elf. He can't help but think that his actions have impacted her life and that he managed to alter her fate. Ados raises his claws and moves toward the cage, causing the princess to panic and plead with him not to break his word since she helped him defeat Alcaray. She clenches her fists and covers her face, thinking she's about to die. But when she looks up, she sees the cage's bars broken and the door wide open. Ados tells her that she's free, though she may only roam within his realm, and she asks why he made such a decision. He replies that a dragon should remain noble to the end and that she can live peacefully in his domain. He then orders all monsters not to harm her. The monsters confirm the dragon's command, demonstrating total loyalty. She asks why he's being so kind and what he wants in return for granting her freedom in his realm. However, as she approaches the broken bars, she notices that the enormous dragon is already asleep, ignoring her further questions. Yang, back in his room, reflects that his time was well spent and feels more confident about facing the expedition team next time. As he walks, he notices his device lighting up with numerous message notifications and wonders if they're from Lei Yuan. Expanding the notification, he's shocked to see over 99 unread messages and questions whether his device has been infected by a virus. After reading a few, he concludes that all the women who contacted him are extremely enthusiastic. The warrior apologizes for leaving so abruptly and decides he should reply to Lin Yuyan so she can manage the others. She responds, saying she understands he was busy and suggests that they should team up next time, thanking him for his help. He thinks to himself that this is how a guild should operate and that Lin is great at getting along with others, unlike Ling Shu and the expedition team. The next day, Su heads to the tower. A girl remarks on the coincidence of running into him and asks if he's there for a job change, Tochi replies yes and asks if it's her first time. She confirms that it is and shares that with the help of seniors, she's reached level 20. She then asks if it's true he was in the Diamond Tier's secret realm with Yui on the previous day. He confirms and explains that he's at the tower to begin his third job transfer mission. The girl, feeling discouraged, congratulates him on his achievement but admits she feels they're no longer on the same level and worries they'll drift further apart. Sue encourages her, saying she's doing well and that her hidden class has tremendous development potential, assuring her that she might surpass him one day. She's impressed by his words and asks if he really means it. The girl explains a phenomenon where monsters become more active under the Red Moon's influence. In missions, like the Ruined Mansion, where monsters are the inhabitants, they become more volatile. She concludes by saying the Red Moon doesn't follow a fixed pattern but shows signs in the early hours of the day, and the Adventurers Association will notify everyone. Sue acknowledges the warning and moves away from her. As he leaves, he reflects that despite the dangers, his power is at level 4, making the mission feel like a walk in the park. The Ruined Mansion was once home to high-ranking officials, but the nobleman who lived there was cursed, killed everyone, and became a haunting presence in the mansion after his death. Inside the mansion, a guard wakes up from his hangover, realizing how wasted he was. He notices the Red Moon effect is active and regrets picking such a bad day to get drunk, but since no one visits the mansion, he thinks it won't be an issue. The guard gets up, plans to announce the Red Moon's presence, and heads out for another drink. As he walks toward the door, he notices someone entering and wonders who would be crazy enough to come in under the Red Moon's effect. Earlier, before the guard woke up, Sue had entered the portal to the Ruined Mansion and was already defeating some apparitions. The warrior easily cuts the apparitions in half. Sue thinks the moon's effect isn't much of a challenge, given how easily he's defeating the enemies, but when he turns around, he notices something unusual. The apparitions have completely deformed, leaving him shocked. They've taken on a more grotesque form with glowing red eyes, and their levels, previously 56, have jumped to 70 due to the Red Moon's madness effect. The mutated monsters charge at the warrior, and he wonders if this is truly the Red Moon's effect. They continue attacking him rapidly. One uses its tongue to strike Sue, who blocks it with his shield. The monsters laugh, remove their heads, and lunge at him, causing Sue to panic and scream for them to back off. Before he can retaliate, beams of light shoot through the monsters. Their heads swell and explode, leaving Sue splattered and confused about what just happened. The system alerts him that his sanity has dropped to -10. When sanity reaches 0, he'll fall into madness, so he must be cautious. Stunned by everything, he wonders why the situation has suddenly turned into a Lovecraftian nightmare. He realizes he underestimated the Red Moon's effect. The monster's attack and defense have increased, and his sanity system was subtly added. While cutting down the headless bodies attacking him, Sue thinks he'll need to be more careful from now on. He continues slashing through skeletons and other monsters with his scythe. Using these magical attacks strains his mana recovery, which is down to 20%. His sanity at 60% is making it harder to focus. As he rests, a giant hand emerges from the ground beneath him, startling him. It belongs to a giant elite zombie, level 82, that rises and traps him in its hand. The young warrior intended to clear the dungeon using his own strength, but the monster forced him to cheat. Thus, a path began to form along his arm. He summoned 2 lunar wolf spirits that knocked the giant down, making it growl. Standing behind the giant's body, Sue thought it was an instant kill, and as expected of a legendary summon, it was a power gap in a platinum tier dungeon. He approached and extended a hand toward one of the wolves. The creature moved closer to receive his touch. Summoned beasts are loyal, and those 2 fighters could face real-world groups without fear. Recalling the animals, Sue reflected that while this might upset the game's balance, he would disrupt everything now. Walking further, he came across an enormous door that appeared to be the boss room he had been searching for. The wolves followed closely. With force, he ordered the door open, kicking it down to enter the room. Inside, someone knelt, begging forgiveness from their ancestors, confessing guilt. Yang wondered if this was a cutscene. The figure confessed to numerous murders, stumbling over their words before bursting into laughter and declaring they'd commit another as they lunged at him. It was a level 90 devouring spirit ghost. However, the wolves attacked before it could make a move. Sue ordered them to let him finish it, noting how terrifying the ghost appeared. Without the wolves, he might have died there. After defeating the Red Moon boss, Sue concluded he wasn't yet strong enough to maintain a perfect 5-star progression and needed to grow stronger. Killing the level 90 boss earned him platinum tier equipment among other rewards. Although the items didn't interest him, one seemed useful. Despite the mada's 80-point boost, it could serve as an ingredient for potions. With the task complete, it was time to move on to the next mission location. Under the peak of the red light, Linger, impatient, wondered if the people who accidentally entered the ruined mansion had finished. Liu Si approached, suggesting they might be hiding or fleeing, as only someone like her could handle the mansion under the Red Moon's influence. With a murderous aura, the woman demanded he stop spouting nonsense and tell her which guild they belonged to, how many people were there, and how long they'd been inside, scaring him. Zhou, standing behind them, stated they'd been inside for half an hour, and that all B-tier guilds had denied involvement, leaving things unclear. Linger thought the place was as resilient as a diamond-tiered dungeon. Even she had to be cautious, so they should have been destroyed and someone should have emerged by now. At that moment, a portal formed, putting everyone on alert as someone was about to exit. Yang stepped out, commenting that it had been both mentally and physically exhausting. Looking ahead, he noticed several people staring at him curiously. He wondered why they were there and began to suspect they'd uncovered his true identity and that it was a trap. Before him, the group speculated if he was alone, and the girl recognized him as the one who kept crossing her path. He asked why they were there since there was no need to appear in a platinum-tier secret realm, but he was bombarded with questions about why he went. Unbothered, Su asked if it was really that dangerous. A man scolded him, saying that if he died, he couldn't imagine the punishment they'd face. The woman told the man to be quiet and step back, leaving Su puzzled by the interruption. She asked if he cleared the dungeon alone. The man, now calmer, urged her to continue, and Su replied that he had and questioned if there was a problem. Extending her hand and complimenting his strength, she demanded he hand over the crystal dropped by the boss and name his price. Mocking her, Su asked who she was and why he should hand over the crystal just because she asked. Those watching grew nervous and afraid for him. Running toward him, the woman asked if he knew who he was dealing with, but Su, unfazed, responded that he didn't and asked if he should. The woman, frustrated, began boasting about her lineage, her family, and her remarkable beauty. Grabbing a staff, she declared he should be punished for the insolence of ignoring her ladyship. Before she could act further, she was struck on the head by the very lady she sought to protect, who told them to stop the madness. Su thought that being the daughter of the Tianjin Master Pavilion had given her much to boast about, but she didn't seem threatening to him. He then asked what she had to say to him. She said she needed food for her spirit horse and didn't expect him to find it first, but it had been years since anyone treated her like that, and she admired his courage. Summoning her hunting falcon, she told him that if he could endure it for 3 minutes, she would pretend nothing had happened. The falcon was level 90. The bird attacked him, and he commented that it was a bit irrational. One of the men said he was doomed for offending the young lady behind him. The man thought that if Su had cleared the dungeon alone, his strength must be 4th tier. Above him, the falcon used its wings to strike, and Su tried to dodge all the lightning bolts. The falcon was fast and attacked from a distance. Simply defending wouldn't work. Yang didn't want to reveal his true strength, but had no choice. So he drew his bloodthirst sword, leaving everyone stunned. It didn't take long for the bird to pierce through Su's body. But before it could strike again, Su used his sword to pierce the spirit creature. As the bird fell, Su commented that the 3 minutes hadn't passed yet and stepped on the animal. With a murderous aura, Linger asked how he dared to kill her spirit. Smiling, Su replied that the agreement was to last 3 minutes, not to avoid killing it. He thought that if it were a real fight, he wouldn't fear her even with forbidden spells. A massive burst of power erupted from the girl's fury. Su, surprised, thought about how strong she was. Someone told the young woman that his identity was special, so she couldn't start a fight. Calming down, she asked about his identity, and the man explained that he was a VIP at the temple and a gold-tier member of the X-Alliance. The Grand Court had instructed them to handle him carefully. Turning, Liu asked if, with 2 identities, he had also completed the 5-star job transfer. Su asked if she was a VIP like him. She admitted she had only reached the 4th tier and barely completed the first 3 levels, while her opponent had done it alone and seemed relaxed doing so. Smiling, Yang said she should understand the special nature of his identity, and if there was nothing else, he was leaving. Her audacity enraged the woman. However, as she retrieved her horse, she told her team to head back. Su asked if that was all. She asked if he intended to rob the temple and take control. He didn't care who she was. When he tamed the Black Dragon, she'd see who the real boss was. For now, he'd forget about her and focus on killing the Earth Dragon. After that, the next task should appear. The group arrived at the Wild Mountains where the Earth Dragon resided. Its health was at 100%. The men remarked that no one seemed to have come to face the dragon, as the young lady had instructed earlier to reserve the challenge spot. She said she would handle it. Walking to the site, she noted that while her level was low, it was still a rare world boss of the dragon type, so they could use it for practice. However, she couldn't proceed as one of her men stopped her, saying there was already a coup ahead, leaving her puzzled. She turned with a murderous aura toward the soldier, who shivered in fear. Pretending to muster courage, the soldier approached the man, saying they had reserved the spot earlier. Nervously, the other explained that a VIP member had used that privilege to cut ahead. With deadly eyes, the girl told her team to replace him if he caused problems. Behind her, Yang pushed through the crowd, asking them not to delay his dungeon run. Realizing who was speaking, she became even more irritated and wondered why he kept crossing her path. Liu Si asked why he was everywhere like an annoying fly. Su replied that meeting twice might make him suspect they had something against him. Linger told him not to think he could do as he pleased just because he had temple privileges, warning that if he ever failed a job transfer, it would be his end. He thanked her and assured her not to worry. Then he asked why they were in a low-level boss area, questioning if they felt like weak intimidators. Tai told him not to interfere as the girl was preparing for the black dragon. Su apologized but said that dragon was part of his class and he wouldn't give it up. Threateningly, she said that once she tamed the dragon, the temple wouldn't protect him. Su retorted that she shouldn't boast about things that hadn't happened yet and suggested she wait for the next boss. After that, he opened a portal and left, saying goodbye, leaving her without a chance to respond. The woman called him a barbarian and the man, impressed, asked if he was really planning to face the boss alone, saying they should wait for the next one. As he passed by the defeated monsters, the young man thought the girl and her team might have hidden aces up their sleeves, so he needed to speed up. Hidden among the rocks, he spotted the earth dragon in the rocky abyss. Although it looked more like a lizard than a dragon, it was far inferior to the black flame wing. Its hard scales resembled earth, and its carapace seemed like golden crystal. The young man leaped high to attack the dragon, commenting that even without his wolf spirits or demon blade, his star-tier weapon would suffice. He struck the dragon squarely on its forehead, using his soul mark ability. The monster absorbed the hit and immediately countered, almost landing a blow on Yang, who realized its defense was incredibly high. He leaped again. Yang asked the monster if all dragons shared the same movement patterns. Landing on the dragon's tail, he quickly ran along its carapace, inflicting a significant amount of damage. After traversing the length of the dragon's body, he jumped high again and noticed the dragon's eye lacked protection. He descended directly onto the monster's face, landing a precise blow to its eye. Back on the ground, he saw the opponent's health had dropped to 50%, so he needed to maintain this pace. The dragon entered a rage state, activating an ability that transformed it into a spinning wheel, rolling uncontrollably. In this form, it charged at Yang, who narrowly escaped, leaving destruction in its wake. Regaining his bearings, Yang noticed the dragon had turned and was preparing to charge again. He wondered if the creature had some sort of tracking system. Understanding the situation, the young man realized he couldn't attack while the dragon was in this phase. He knew the ability was part of the boss's second stage, and that there must be a way to stop it. While dodging, he came across a large granite wall and realized it was the key to stopping the monster. Yang ran to the granite wall and waited for the dragon to charge. At the perfect moment, he dodged, causing the dragon to crash into the wall, leaving it dazed. Taking advantage of its stunned state, which increased its damage intake by 20%, Yang went all in. Outside the dungeon, C asked Zhao if they were just going to stand there. Zhao replied that if he had complaints, he should take it up with the huntress. The woman's guard suggested they return, questioning if the young man could really defeat the boss alone. She replied that she was curious to see what Yang was capable of. To everyone's surprise, a massive screen appeared, revealing that Yang had broken all records and completed the dungeon in just 20 minutes, securing first place. Sai was outraged, calling him a cheater, and questioned how he had defeated the boss solo while setting a new record. Meanwhile, Zhao heard a strange noise from the portal. Emerging from the portal, the warrior looked exhausted but was wearing armor made from the dragon he had just defeated. Everyone waiting outside burst into laughter, as the armor's design was hideous. Yang asked them what was so funny. He thought he should have cleared his warehouse earlier. Since his inventory was full, he had to equip the armor. Though it was effective, it looked terrible. Annoyed, the man asked again what was so funny, and challenged anyone with skills to break his record. The huntress admitted his skill, but said he shouldn't be too proud for dealing with a mere earth dragon, as her target was far more challenging. Yang turned to her with a smirk and mocked, saying he tamed the black dragon before she did. Irritated by his declaration, she asked who he thought he was to speak like that, and if he was joking with her. Yang calmly stated his name, adding that as a temple VIP, he would be the one to tame the black dragon. After completing the dungeon, Yang received several items and unlocked a hidden Stage 2 mission called Blood Glory. The mission description revealed a hidden laboratory of a famous mage in a mountain, surrounded by high-level monsters containing specific necessary items. Yang checked his inventory and noticed he had obtained Earth Dragon blood and a rusty key. Bidding everyone farewell, he decided to undergo his transformation and then tackle the mission. As he left the scene, people called him ignorant and Zhao asked the huntress what they should do. She ordered C and Zhao to keep an eye on him and report immediately if the young man got near the next stage of his job transfer. They agreed. On a foggy night, Yang unequipped the armor he had received and returned to his casual clothes. He decided the armor was worth some money and that it would be useful up to the 4th job transfer mission after his transformation, so he wouldn't spend gems on it. Approaching the mountain marked in the mission, he noticed a dense fog surrounding it and recalled that several adventurers had attempted to explore the area but never returned. As he walked, the warrior commented on the thick fog, the cold, and how the place was as silent as a graveyard. Yang opened the map to get his bearings and saw there was still a great distance between him and his goal. Closing the map, he decided to take his time and opted to fight some monsters along the way. When he turned to engage in battle, a monster was instantly sliced in half by someone else. From within the dense fog, a Thunder Swordswoman named Zhang Yan appeared and asked if he was okay, calling him handsome. She asked if he had lost his way, considering how low his level was for that area. Yang thanked her and explained he was on a mission. She questioned what kind of mission would bring someone at level 60 to such dangerous mountains, suggesting he might have been deceived. The swordswoman explained she was there collecting materials and offered to protect him, but Yang declined, stating he couldn't form a party. After declining her offer, he thanked her and continued on his way, leaving her wondering who he was and why he seemed so mysterious. As he distanced himself, Yang remarked that his playstyle leaned more toward exploiting loopholes. Summoning his 2 moon wolf spirits, he mounted one and sped toward his objective at an incredible pace. Yang noticed that his wolves had turned red and wondered if it was an effect of the red moon, deciding to remain cautious in case it turned against him. Arriving at the site, the young man found a giant tree whose thick roots sealed the front gate. He managed to enter the place with little difficulty and immediately noticed the stench of rot as if there were moldy meat inside. Deeper inside, he encountered a corridor with a grated door. On the walls, dried bodies with outstretched arms hung, and he wondered if this was the Blood Glory location. Kicking the grate open, he loudly proclaimed he wasn't surprised there were no enemies on the way, given that the monster inside had killed everyone. Entering, he saw a white circle drawn on the ground and noticed various old, dusty bookcases along the room's edges. Touching the skull in the circle, a zombie mage rose, described as a mage who had died full of resentment, feeding on the blood of those who entered. Despite its dramatic entrance, Yang didn't need to lift a finger, as his wolves devoured the boss effortlessly. He told them to quiet down. After the easy victory, the warrior received the notes from the Mad Mage's experiments, which piqued his interest, and he decided to take a look. Reading the book, Yang wondered how it could help him, noting the mage had conducted numerous human experiments but still failed. The system notified Yang that the mission rewards had been delivered, including blessed blood for the ritual. The ritual instructions stated that to activate it, he had to stand in the circle and consume the blood of a powerful creature. Yang pondered why the mage went mad after the ritual and whether it was dangerous, but reassured himself that the system wouldn't allow something life-threatening. He realized the mage went mad because he used ordinary human blood, while the mission specifically required powerful blood, and he had Earth Dragon blood. Comparing powerful creatures, no one matched the Black Flamewing, giving him a risky idea. Yang asked the system if he could connect to the boss when there were no intruders in the secret realm. The system confirmed it was possible, and Yang instructed the Guardians to protect the area and prevent anyone from disrupting the magical formation. He then initiated the connection to return as Atos. In his realm, the princess complained about being bored, questioning the freedom the dragon had granted her since he spent all day sleeping and reacting to nothing. She realizes she has been imprisoned for a long time and that the royal family doesn't care about her, as they sent Alcaray to rescue her because she bears the princess's curse. At that moment, Atos awakens from his sleep after connecting, roaring ferociously and scaring the girl. The princess asks him why he roared, and he replies it's a habit. Without hesitation, the dragon lifts his paw, its sharp claws gleaming, and the girl wonders what's happening. He digs his claws into his chest, letting his golden blood spill out, leaving the princess utterly confused. Atos notices the golden dragon blood now in its claws and thinks it will yield impressive results during the ritual. The princess asks why he did that, but he evades the truth, claiming he got excited and accidentally let some blood spill. She mocks him, asking if this excitement came from being rejected by some female dragon, and he wonders what dragon she might be referring to. He changes the subject, asking why she seems concerned about him, making her blush as she claims she's just curious, and that you shouldn't overthink it. The dragon decides the blood collected is sufficient and stores it in his inventory. Atos declares that he's done and is going back to sleep. She asks if he's returning to his dream of the other one, and he tells her not to dwell on that because more enemies will arrive soon. The princess wonders what enemies he's talking about. While she ponders, she notices the dragon has already fallen back asleep and yells, questioning why he says strange things only to immediately fall asleep afterward. Yang disconnects from the dragon and returns to his human form, checking to see that the magic circle remained untouched in his absence. The young man begins following the ritual's steps, positioning himself at the center of the blood pentagram. The second step is to consume the golden dragon blood he obtained earlier. He takes the vial and drinks the blood in one gulp, thinking that fortune favors the bold. After ingesting the liquid, the ritual activates, and he begins feeling its effects. Yang feels as though his body, throat, and head are melting from the heat. The ritual circle lights up, and the blood rises into the air, seemingly eager to consume him. The wolves take a defensive stance, but Yang stops them from attacking. He explains that it's part of the ritual, as only the strong deserve the blood's blessing, and that one can only evolve through pain. As he finishes speaking, the blood envelops his body and crystallizes around him, completing the ritual. The wolves approach the blood cocoon to see what's happening. The cocoon begins to crack, first revealing Yang's golden eye as he declares the blood ritual complete. The rest of the crystallized shell shatters, and Yang feels that he has successfully transformed, gaining benefits beyond those of a typical job transformation. Emerging from the cocoon, he realizes he can now rival a powerful Tier 5 fighter and notices visible changes to his physique. He observes the newly obtained primordial black fire and senses its immense destructive power, finally understanding the fear felt by those who face the dragon. Petting his guardian wolf, he remarks that the weak naturally fear power, and that beasts understand this primal rule. Yang decides to test the black flames and snaps his fingers, causing an enormous blue flame explosion. He's amazed by the impact, which even messes up his hair. The explosion is more intense than expected, causing the cave to collapse, forcing the group to retreat. After escaping unharmed, Yang laments that he can't use the ritual again due to the cave's destruction and resolves to better control the flames. As he prepares to complete the job transfer, he hears a distant cry for help. Recognizing the voice, he wonders if it could be the warrior from earlier. The woman, her clothes torn and body wounded, warns the approaching men to stay back or she'll kill them. The group of 4 men closes in with bad intentions, and Lai Pu says a girl shouldn't be alone and that he'll protect her. The warrior questions whether they fear acting this way, knowing the association could intervene and enforce its rules. Wang Xiao mocks her, and Chen Jin adds that they're already on the association's blacklist, banned from entering cities, so they don't care about laws. Lai Pu stretches out his arms and says he has been hunting for months and that by sheer luck, a cute girl with everything he desires has appeared, calling it a gift from the heavens. The malicious group moves closer to her, saying she must serve them, leaving the young woman terrified. She declares that she'd rather die than submit, but just as the man reaches out to grab her, his fist is severed. The group leader looks at his arm in shock, realizing his hand is gone. Yang appears, saying he heard about a gang targeting solo players and didn't expect to run into them that day. He asks how they want to die. Pu orders the group to kill the boy slowly, and Chen Jin demands to know how Yang dared to do that to their leader. The woman urges him to run, saying he won't be able to handle the group. Yang reflects that in the past, facing 4 men who had completed their 4th job transfer would have required a legendary item, but now he could handle it. At that moment, the group attacks simultaneously, but Yang dodges all their strikes. Xiao is baffled by his speed. Yang realizes he's no longer who he once was and manages to take down 3 advancing men with just a single kick. Pu swiftly approaches, attempting to strike from behind with his sword, but Yang quickly draws his dagger and blocks the attack instantly, shattering the opponent's sword. Pu is horrified, as his sword was diamond tier, and he wonders if Yang's dagger is a star tier weapon. He notices the boy seems incredibly valuable and suspects he may be hiding more treasures. The group realizes that hunting Yang could bring them immense wealth, so they decide to attack again. Yang remarks that greed knows no bounds and asks if they aren't afraid of dying before spending what they have. At that moment, Yang activates his flame ability, stating that for people of their level, he has no reason to show mercy. The group, unaware of the power's magnitude, freezes in place. Before they can react, Yang unleashes the ability, causing a massive explosion in the area. The ability wipes out all the men in the blink of an eye, leaving Yang with notifications of the items he obtained. Yang examines the items and reflects that the perverts met the end they deserved. He surveys the scene, realizing the immense power of the flames. He asks the woman if she's okay. In shock, she asks what kind of power that was, but Yang simply asks her to keep it a secret, stating he can't reveal it. She thanks him for saving her, admitting she didn't expect him to handle the group and that, if not for him, she would have taken her own life. She asks for his name and he introduces himself. In astonishment, she reveals that Yu had mentioned him, leaving Yang puzzled. She explains that Yuyan and the others had a party, and after getting drunk, Yu had told all the girls about his feats. The warrior teasingly adds that every girl there knows about him, leaving Yang embarrassed by Yu's lack of self-control. Yang asks if she has a return scroll, as he'd leave if she did. She hands him one and thanks him again. As he departs, the girl surveys the scene, finding Yang's presence intriguing. Yang returns to the temple and submits the requirements for his class advancement mission. The ceremony begins, raising his level cap to 80 and granting new abilities and significant boosts in health and strength. His class evolves from Mage Warrior to Mystic Arcane. The young man tests one of his new abilities, summoning a Mystic Arm over his right arm, revealing that the Mystic Arcane skill tree is perfect for fighting mages. In his left hand, he summons an orb capable of providing a mystic armor that grants various benefits. The skill book grants him a legendary passive ability that increases physical attack damage by 1% for every 10 strength points and does the same for magic. Yang reflects that the new ability is a twin to his dual spirit enchantment, increasing his damage by 248% and his magic by 159%. The priestess approaches to congratulate him, but Yang notices she seems unhappy. She reveals that their temple only supports up to the 3rd class transfer, and that he will have to go to Tianling City, adding that this breaks her heart. At that moment, the giant statue activates, prompting her to wonder if it could be a blessing of nature. The statue emits golden rays that encircle the young woman and envelop her in a cocoon. Yang notices that this seems similar to the blood ritual, but being a divine ritual, it radiates bright lights and exudes a sense of peace. The golden cocoon shatters, and she emerges with a pair of wings and a golden halo above her head, revealing her class advancement to Tier 5. Yang asks if it was a class advancement, and she explains that Temple Priest class advancements are different, and this way she can stay by his side. Following the sudden blessing, she descends to Yang and rests her head on his arms, saying she feels tired. Yang holds her and tells her to rest as much as she wants. Embracing her, he says they will now go together to Tianli City. Outside the room, an adventurer wonders why the door hasn't opened yet, while another asks who's been holding up the bathroom door as they need to get in. The door opens, revealing Yang carrying the priestess in his arms, and the adventurer asks why it took so long and why he's carrying her like that. The others in the room question what happened to the woman and why she's unconscious, making the arcane feel uneasy as he tells them they can enter. A tall man grabs Yang's shoulder and demands an explanation for why he's leaving with the woman in his arms. Yang glares at him with a deadly stare and releases a powerful aura to scare him off. Terrified, the man stumbles backward, nervously asking who he is. As Yang walks away, another priestess approaches, saying she recently advanced in class, and asks if Bai Ling is heading to Tianling. Yang nods and congratulates her. She says she feels sad thinking she won't see him and Ling again, but he reassures her, saying he'll return for tea someday. Grateful, the priestess wishes them a safe journey while pondering if she still has a chance with him. In Tianling City at the Transfer Temple, the local priestess greets them and informs Yang that once Bai Ling awakens, she will assume the role of Tianling's temple priestess, which is standard for succession. Yang acknowledges her words and thanks her for the warm reception. He reflects that now that he's arrived in the city, he should purchase a residence to settle down and organize himself before finding his grandparents. While viewing available homes, he sends an email to his grandparents with money, saying he'll visit them soon and asking them and their relatives to take care. The real estate agent showing Yang the homes informs him that the one they're viewing costs $998 million, boasting a direct sea view, the full furnishings making it unbeatable. Yang counters, saying the house seems too large and would be challenging to manage. The agent then suggests a full-service maid team to handle all household tasks for an additional $1 million. Tempted by the offer, Yang agrees and instructs them to start the paperwork immediately. After acquiring the property, the arcane enjoys all its amenities such as thermal baths, meals prepared by the maids, and sunbathing on his balcony. After indulging, he lies on his bed to rest. Lying there, he feels grateful for having so much money, remembering how he couldn't afford anything before. With that thought, he decides to sleep and visit Bai Ling the next day. The priestess wakes up disoriented, wondering where she is. Beside her, the elder priestess waits for her to awaken and offers her a herbal soup to help her recover. Ling thanks the elder, saying she feels better. The elder notes that the statue hadn't given a revelation in years, and now that it has, it concerns the new hero. She asked about him. Ling responds that he is capable of performing miracles with his remarkable courage and strength, and with that, he will bring new hope to the world. The elder praises her judgment, saying she feels at peace leaving the city in their hands. She then reveals that the red moon has lingered for days and that another event is imminent. She is startled, realizing she had forgotten about the invasion and wonders how she could have overlooked it. At that moment, she gets out of bed and heads for the exit. The elder priestess asks what's wrong, and she replies that the hero doesn't know about the invasion and that she must warn him. The priestess is deeply concerned for his safety, and the elder wonders if the young woman has already fallen for the hero. Yang was in a deep sleep when he suddenly woke up, sensing something was wrong. He rushed outside, asking what happened, and one of his maids, visibly frightened, pointed to the sky, shouting about a monster. Standing before him was a giant with multiple arms, each holding axes stitched across its back. The giant glared at him, declaring he was destined to die. Yang retorted, saying the giant had no sense showing up in the middle of the night and that he would defeat it quickly. Before Yang could launch an attack, Linger arrived on a mystical horse, informing him that he was the target of the monster invasion, leaving him surprised to see her. The huntress interjected, claiming Yang wasn't capable of handling such creatures and urging him to step aside. Yang asked her what this red moon invasion was, but she simply said she wasn't obligated to explain and told him to ask someone else. The huntress summoned a giant blue tiger spirit and ordered it to attack. The tiger spirit and the demonic giant stared each other down before clashing in a fierce battle. Yang grew frustrated, knowing he had just bought the house and now his yard was being turned into a battlefield. He was taken aback as Ling ran toward him, calling his name, making him question if it was truly her. She threw herself into his arms, leaving him stunned. The priestess explained that she had just woken up, noticed the red moon, and realized she hadn't warned him about the monster invasion, which made her anxious to rush to his side. Yang pulled out a chair for her and asked her to explain everything. She revealed that when the red moon appears, monsters emerge from an unknown portal, and this only happens after a third-class advancement. Those killed by these monsters do not revive. Yang remarked that even though he had undergone his advancement, the monster still seemed far too strong. The priestess noted that the situation was unusual and speculated that Linger might be after the crystal core of the invasion. She added that the giant had unique traits. Yang deduced that the monster, initially meant for a third-class advancement, had scaled up to a fifth-class level, dynamically adjusting its power. Meanwhile, the demonic giant was holding its ground against 3 giant spirits summoned by the Huntress, showing no signs of difficulty. The Huntress wondered how a 3rd advancement Decadent Scarlet could wield such power and told herself she had to go all out. Yang stepped in, telling her to stop fighting because she was going to destroy his house and that he would handle it. She angrily retorted that she wouldn't assist him. The Arcane began to release some of his aura, unsheathing his dagger, and told her to stay in the background and just watch. With a significant amount of dark magic swirling around him, Yang raised his hand toward the giant and fired magical arrows. He then activated a shadow-based ability that exploded from within the giant, leaving it with only 40% of its health. The Huntress was shocked at how effortlessly Yang's combo had shaved off 60% of the giant's life. She realized that the giant's strength adjusted based on its opponent, and when facing the Arcane, its power decreased to that of a 3rd advancement boss. Dodging all of the giant's attacks with ease, Yang realized that thanks to his passives, he could defeat the monster using sheer brute force. At that moment, Yang closed in on the giant and delivered a powerful 1-inch punch-inspired strike that sent his opponent flying. The giant entered a rage mode and all its stitched arms fused into one, wielding a massive axe. It charged at the Arcane, shouting that the warrior must die. Yang remarked that the giant was hunting warriors, then activated one of his abilities, channeling a massive amount of energy into his right arm. With his arm fully charged with power, Yang delivered an explosive punch that shattered the giant's arm completely, declaring it unworthy. The young man sees his opponent completely shattered and remarks that the Red Moon invasion was ultimately nothing as he receives the crystal core and a lot of experience. The priestess reflects on how quickly he dealt with the Scarlet Decay and concludes he is truly remarkable. The Huntress, irritated, says that in all the events she has participated in, she has never seen anyone finish with such brutality and wonders about the young man's wild power. She mounts her mystical horse and tells him not to consider it a victory, then rides off as the young man dismisses her words as mere rambling. Holding the core in his hand, he questions whether this was what the Huntress wanted and what made it special, to which the priestess responds that the answer is him. At that moment, before she can explain further, something in the sky catches their attention, leaving them both tense. From the portal where the giant had emerged, a red beam is summoned from the other side, and the young man wonders what it could be. Before he can react, Yang's body is pinned to the ground, preventing him from resisting, and he looks at Ling with alarm. Yang awakens, confused, wondering where he is. Opening his eyes, he panics as he sees the priestess beside him. She wakes up, addressing him as the brave hero. Still unsettled, he asks what is happening and why they had slept together. She explains that he had been cursed and needed to undergo a purification ritual. The hero notes that during the Red Moon event, there's a chance of infection, turning victims into monsters, hence the need for the ritual. She brought him back to his room for it. After she describes the purification process, he comments on how embarrassing it was. At that moment, she coughs, revealing a mark on her neck. Worried, he asks what's wrong, but she explains that priests absorb the contamination during purification, though the deity's statue dissipates it within a few days. Taking her hands, Yang urges her not to overexert herself as he would feel deeply guilty. Captivated, she is left speechless. Blushing and wanting to change the subject, the priestess says she will explain the benefits of a 5-star 3rd advancement. Not fully understanding, he simply agrees. The hero can enjoy 2 benefits: a monthly subsidy of 1 billion, discounts on purchases from the assembly, and the right to join an S-rank guild. Additionally, the core exchange store has opened, allowing him to trade crystal cores for rare items, equipment, and even forbidden spells. Yang approaches the statue and places his hand on it. Despite his opponent's desire for the Red Moon crystal core, he wants to see if it can be exchanged. Amazed, he discovers it can be traded for forbidden spells, divine and semi-divine artifacts, things he couldn't afford even with a fortune. But the initial price is 300 cores, and he only has 3. He is far from meeting the minimum standard and needs to strengthen himself and fight higher-level monsters to obtain more cores. The priestess appears, saying she must return to the temple to fulfill her duties. He replies that he will also return to repair damaged areas. She mentions that a high-ranking outsider is visiting Chanling that day, and the young man wonders who it could be. In the city of Longsha, a portal materializes at the foot of a temple. Makiko, level 128, marvels at the city. Her companions note that they spared no expense to give the young lady a chance to tame the dragon, while another comments that the Eagle Federation is greedy. Mr. Lei greets everyone and Woozy thanks them for coming. The man approaches her, saying he has heard that she plans to challenge the fierce and brutal Black Dragon and asks if she is confident. She smiles and says she trusts her talent. In a silent confrontation, he remarks that she is young and energetic, to which she replies that they shouldn't be deceived by appearances. The young woman steps closer, saying their conversation seems productive, leaving both unsettled. She tells Mr. Lai that they are new here and unfamiliar with the area, expressing gratitude for any guidance. He wonders how someone so native was raised. Pointing to the portal, Mr. Lai explains that the Black Dragon's fortress is in Yongfeng and advises them to go alone as he cannot accompany them. Woozy, irritated, remarks that they were sent to another city without proper reception. Beside her, a man says they don't care about small cities. Offended, the young woman points at them, stating they are guests here, and the man fulfilled his promise. They retort that she will suffer from her attitude. Langer asks if that is the Beastmaster prodigy from Sakura country. The man confirms, saying she was trained by the Master Association and her likely goal is the Black Dragon. She asks what trouble a simple girl from Sakura could cause, stating her real problem is Yang, and inquires about the findings from the investigation she requested. He explains that Yang started with the basic warrior class and grew stronger on his own without any significant guild support. Everything he achieved was by himself. The Huntress remarks that it's getting complicated to understand who this young man really is. Despite his low level, he accomplishes impressive feats and muses that he might actually tame the Black Dragon. As the group departs, she orders them to prepare to set out the next day. Near the exit, Mekiko turns and greets everyone, startling the Huntress. Zhao wonders if they've been discovered despite using a camouflage tool, and the Huntress adds that the Sakura girl might pose a threat to them. She summons her horse and before leaving, announces a change of plans, instructing the group to meet her at the Secret Realm's entrance in 30 minutes. Yang, relaxing at home, supervises the construction crew repairing the damage from the Red Moon monster invasion battle. As he orders the wall to be reinforced, the system notifies him of enemies in the Secret Realm. He immediately confirms the connection. His maids ask where he's going, reminding him there's still work to do, but he apologizes, explaining he has urgent matters to attend to, and tells them to handle the house. The women are shocked as Yang vanishes before their eyes. Eidos awakens from his deep sleep and immediately assesses the group of 24 that has arrived, led by Lu Linger. The Huntress shouts to her group that if they help her tame the Black Dragon, they'll all be handsomely rewarded. The dragon laughs in his fortress, remarking to himself that this is the perfect opportunity to make her pay for the house repairs. Eidos notices the exploration team is well-equipped and highly skilled in combat, which would make them a formidable challenge. The dragon's minions assure him not to worry and ask permission to advance and deal with the enemies. Eidos finds the two minions' appearances unusual, and the princess explains that the day he was injured, they cleaned his wounds and drank his blood, which caused him to evolve. She asks him to observe the other two minions who also drank his blood, revealing that they're delirious and unable to handle its power. Eidos realizes he can't have his army consume his blood due to its side effects and notes that the elite minions are comparable to the pre-evolved Black Flame Wing form. He orders the two minions to proceed and attack the opponents. He then asks why the princess doesn't seem happy. She dismisses it as nothing, while internally admitting that the enemy team's strength worries her. On the battlefield, the team advances skillfully, defeating the realm's monsters, while Zhao continues to issue careful orders. The Huntress reassures Zhao, saying the dragon is at star level and there's no need to worry, but he replies that it's better to be safe than sorry. In an instant, the dragon's elite minions approach, and the Huntress orders the group to handle them. Zhao gives a concise order to prevent any combos from the enemies, instructing the team to split up, one group handling the physically immune minion and the other the magic immune one. One of the minions is defeated, causing the other to enter a frenzy, receiving numerous attribute boosts, which terrifies the group with the monster's intensity. The enraged minion begins summoning other dragon minions for assistance, and the Huntress instructs everyone to stay alert, divide the enemies, and proceed cautiously. With a snap of her fingers, the Huntress summons her spirits and starts coordinating the group to fight the smaller minions while keeping the elite one engaged. Motivated by her leadership, the group gains the upper hand in the battle. Her spirits hold down the elite monster, allowing the others to bring it down. With the monster subdued, the Huntress instructs them not to kill it. The monster protests her methods, demanding to be killed quickly. She responds that her goal is to tame them. Terrified, the monster questions how they dare attempt to control him, but as he speaks, she casts a spell on his chest. He regains awareness and asks what is happening, only to find the woman in front of him, telling him to become her power. He asks who she is, and she replies that the monster is her loyal servant and asks if he remembers. The monster begins questioning this while the other elite monster warns him not to be deceived by the woman. Eidos watches everything through a portal and thinks it's a lowly tactic, though common among humans, and grows irritated that they're attempting it on his minions. The Black Dragon realizes that in his current state of strength, he can't face them and wonders if he'll have to eat the rotten flesh to forcibly level up. Understanding he has no other choice, he devours the putrid flesh. Imagining the taste, the princess asks how he feels. Eidos replies that it's sticky, disgusting, and reminiscent of sewage, making a face of utter disgust. Then the flesh's effect activates and his level surges, emitting a radiant glow that shoots toward the sky in a beam of light, illuminating the clouds. The elite minions are awestruck by the incandescent light, and the monster being tamed regains consciousness, calling Eidos his king. The Huntress feels an immense power emanating from the fortress and wonders what's happened. From the beam of light, she spots the Black Dragon in his evolved form. The system issues alerts that Eidos has evolved through an unknown factor and is now at Radiant Moon Tier, level 150. With the dragon's sudden level increase, the Secret Realm also evolves to Radiant Moon Tier. After completing his evolution, Eidos decides it's time to attack the group. Everyone stares at the colossal dragon, wondering what it could be. Liu Sile, terrified, begins to panic, asking if this is some kind of joke. Zhu Tai grabs his cape, saying he's also shocked but urges him to calm down. The men ask the young woman what they should do, claiming they can't handle this. She comments it could be a bug, as the black dragon wasn't supposed to appear there. Eidos ponders whether she'll truly dismiss this as a bug and, calling her naive, decides to teach her a lesson. A man stands before her, instructing them to avoid defensive spells and use all damage reduction abilities to survive. Thus, everyone around begins deploying their skills for battle. However, the dragon unleashes fire from his mouth, causing a massive explosion that incinerates most of the fighters as he advances. Zhao, leaning on his spear, remarks that 10 people are dead and 6 are wounded, such as the strength of a Moonlight tier boss. Determined, he asserts they didn't come unprepared since they have the Emerald Rings of Life. Everyone activates their rings as he orders them to brace for battle. His rival notes that the expedition team indeed came fully prepared. Each member summons their beast to join the fray. The expedition team launches a simultaneous attack, inflicting minor damage but nothing substantial. Linger rides her eagle, soaring above Atos as the others continue assaulting him with their summoned beasts. She remarks that they're causing no real damage. The warrior mentions that the dragon's heart has been taken. The original plan was to whittle down its health gradually. Sai shouts that this strategy was meant for a Starlight tier boss, but this one is Radiant Moon. Its sheer attributes alone could crush them, so he asks what they can do. He concludes that against absolute power, tricks hold no meaning. One of the men yells that the dragon is about to attack, and another warns there's no time to defend. One man screams but is struck down as the dragon's move lifts stones from the ground. Another, grabbing his fallen comrade, desperately pleads for a revival pill, but Liu tells him to forget it. There's no saving him now and to prepare for death. The princess says they were almost wiped out with one strike and questions why this dragon is so strong. Tai urges her to leave, but she retorts that she's prepared for this. The man tells her that ever since Atos advanced, they've lost their chance to win. The best they can do is minimize losses, so he implores her to survive and inform the master. Resentful but resigned, she agrees that he's right. Mounting her horse, she leaves it to him, but the dragon, seeing her flee, thinks she's the main course and won't let her escape before the banquet. Below him, they start shouting to draw his attention. Zhao yells for the dragon to let the girl go, saying that they're his opponents and urging the group to at least tear off one of the dragon's scales. Atos muses that their sacrificial act is truly heroic. However, they couldn't do much as Atos unleashed another fiery explosion at them. Fleeing, Linger admitted defeat, wondering how she could still call herself a genius after such a loss. No one had ever subdued a Radiant Moon-ranked black dragon. Still, as long as she returned safely, she could try again with another dragon. Her thoughts were interrupted by a wall in front of her, which she collided with and fell to the ground. Realizing the wall was the massive dragon's body, she wondered if Zhao Tai and the others hadn't even lasted a minute. She summoned her bears to attack but didn't have time to run, as she was grabbed and brought face to face with the beast. Her bears were swiftly defeated and she screamed, begging to be let go. The dragon asked how a mere human thought she could subdue him. Atos declared it was time for her to pay for her foolishness and opened his mouth to swallow her whole. She started stammering and crying, tears flowing like a fountain, lamenting loudly, leaving him puzzled by her reaction. Through her sobs, the girl said she didn't want to lose to Su Yang or Sakura, nor disappoint her father. She wanted to be the best tamer, not outdone or eaten. Her tears fell like rain, and the dragon mused at how fragile and simple she was beneath her competitive exterior. He understood her drive, but couldn't simply let her go for nothing. To calm her, he assured her he wouldn't eat her, but he granted her a swift death and gently blew flames in her direction. After all, humans and monsters are natural enemies. She should consider herself unlucky to have encountered Atos. A powerful light descended from the sky, signaling the boy's return. His experience points totaled 3,194 million. This was his highest experience gained to date, several times greater than when he defeated the mage elf of similar levels. With the added boost from the dragon's blood essence, an immense power seemed ready to awaken. However, he only gained 7 levels. It seemed that as he progressed, the experience needed to level up increased. He would need to fight stronger monsters and adventurers. The expedition team also dropped many platinum and diamond level items, though he wasn't as excited about them anymore. He wondered what kind of surprise Linger had left for him. It turned out to be the Spirit Whisper Ring, a moon tier item. The ring was powerful enough and he didn't care much for its spirit resistance or nourishment features. It even came with an infinite stone, directly removing level restoration costs. He genuinely felt like thanking the girl. Ahead of him, a whirlwind began to form. Atos wondered if another specialist had arrived. The whirlwind unleashed a Wrath of Wind ability. Atos decided to retreat as he now had 2 forbidden spells, and once news of the expedition's defeat spread, no one would come after him anytime soon. Now was time for the Flame Wings mission. The elf princess watched the dragon soar into the sunset. She remarked that, as expected, he got won again. After this, he'd grant her freedom. She wondered what that would be like. Back home, Yang stretched after returning, startling his maids. Looking at the wall, he noted it had been repaired. One maid mentioned that since he paid double, the craftsman gave it his all. Feeling tired, he asked one of the maids for a massage, and soon they all flocked to serve him. Outside the Black Dragon's dungeon, Liu punched a rock, questioning how Yang kept leveling up every time they fought. The others, dejected, lamented that even with more people, they still lost. It seemed impossible. Zhao urged them to stop complaining and asked if they had seen Linger. They hadn't and wondered if it could be like last time. Approaching a boulder, Zhu noticed it was weeping. Behind it, the princess crouched, sobbing. When the man approached unnoticed, she lamented her loss, admitting she had been ready to tame the dragon but was disgracefully defeated. She questioned how she could still call herself a genius beast tamer. Interrupting her, he coughed to get her attention, and she asked what he wanted. Tai said he would report the losses, but she told him to report to Jueyu instead, as she didn't want to hear about it. He thought she was in a foul mood. The man admitted no one could have predicted the Black Dragon's evolution. Losing to a Radiant Moon-tier boss wasn't shameful and advised her to focus on other dragons. Linger considered that her rivals also wouldn't defeat the dragon. As long as she tamed others before them, she'd still be the genius beast tamer. Beyond Longshin, there were also a red dragon and a silver one. The latter was stronger. If she tamed it, it would be the most powerful dragon ever domesticated. Emerging from behind the boulder, she commented that she always thought Tai was rough, but admitted he had good insight, making him chuckle. Above everyone else, the princess instructs Zhu Tai to report the losses, assuring them that the Tianji pavilion would cover everything. The group erupts in cheers, thanking her. Behind her, someone asks who those people are. Makiko and the group arrive, asking about the girl. Makiko inquires whether Linger was there to tame the Black Dragon. Extending her hand, Asui introduces herself, saying it's a pleasure to meet her. However, Linger walks past the girl, leaving her greeting the air and wishing her good luck. Watching Linger leave on her horse, they remark on how rude she is. Woozy, irritated, questions how the daughter of the Tianji pavilion could be so ill-mannered. Mockingly, Asui says she understands since Linger failed to tame the dragon and is likely venting her frustration. A companion defends Linger, telling her to stop exaggerating. After scolding the defender, Asui opens a portal and enters the dungeon. Reading the dungeon's current level, she's shocked. One of the men asks why it shifted from Starlight rank to Radiant Moon, and another wonders how they're supposed to fight that. The woman orders them to contact Mr. Lai for confirmation. Mr. Li apologizes, explaining he's aware of the situation and suggests they rest in the city at an inn. He promises to discuss the details later. He ponders how the dragon evolved from Diamond rank to Radiant Moon rank so abruptly. Such an event has never occurred, and he wonders if manipulation could be involved. The following day, Yang, strolling through the dungeon, notes how quiet and uneventful it is, given that Qianling's strongest expedition team was wiped out. No one dared to challenge it. Activating his skill, he declares himself the dungeon's master and vows to hold his ground. At the Black Dragon's fortress, Yang often connected to the dungeon boss to observe challengers entering the fortress, but now he'd face it as a challenger. It was extraordinary. Several dragons fly toward him, and he remarks that this kind of welcome feels familiar. He tells the beasts to open their eyes and recognize who's before them. His eyes shift to match theirs, overwhelming all the dragons with his power. One of the creatures comments that it's Ato's aura. Another questions why a human carries their master's aura, noticing the black flames surrounding him. Yang orders them to leave. They retreat instantly, and he notes that the battle with the Black Dragon is imminent. There's no time to waste on minor creatures. Summoning his wolves, he instructs them to guard the area and releases his Radiant Moon-tier pressure to keep creatures at bay. Leaving the spot, he summons the dragon. Lilith is startled, seeing the beast wake suddenly. She asks if another challenger has arrived so soon. Atos takes off swiftly, leaving her wondering who the unlucky ones are this time. At this point, she has given up on freedom and questions the dragon's credibility. Later, the dragon lands near the wolves, causing them to growl nervously. One wolf asks the other what they should do since they can't beat the dragon. A second speculates that the dragon might have eaten their master. The first dismisses this as impossible. In front of them, Atos uses his claws to tear open his chest, confusing the wolves, who call them insane. Yang had previously noticed that the damage reduction talent didn't work alone. Wounding oneself halfway might be advantageous, but misusing it could compromise item durability. Yang commands the dragon to stand still, suppress its flesh regeneration, and order all monsters in the dungeon to cease movement. Once the orders are given, they disconnect. Yang reappears, and the wolves comment on his survival. Approaching the dragon, he says that thanks to Atos, he managed to act out a resurgence from a weak class. It's impossible not to feel something, but now it's time to move forward. Flying toward Atos, Yang orders him to die and be reborn as his servant, vowing that together they will conquer greater lands. His name is Atos of the Black Flame Wing. With the wolves, relentless attacks follow. 2 hours later, one wolf thinks it's on the verge of collapse. Exhausted, Yang feels his hands go numb but knows it's not over. The dragon's health is at 19%. Drinking a potion, he remarks that he understands the struggles of exploration teams. Without his abilities, he couldn't breach its defenses. It was time to end this once and for all. Lilith awakens in alarm, hearing the dragon's roar, which puts her on high alert. The clouds and mist dissipate. Some monsters appear, and she runs, screaming for Atos, fearing her body will vanish. Stopping, she realizes the dragon's aura has disappeared and begins to worry. On the other side, Yang declares it's over. Before him, the dragon starts to succumb to his overwhelming power. He gained a massive amount of experience, 3 times more than defeating 5th tier members as expected from a Radiant Moon tier boss. A giant sword appeared before him, and he remarked that it didn't look like an ordinary item at first glance. He decided to take it. As he picked up the sword, the ground around him trembled. The wild power felt as if it would burst through his body. After some time, he mastered the sword and resolved to test its power. With a single strike, he split the mountain down to the ground, leaving him astonished by its might. Judging by the description, Black Flame Wing's strength was unparalleled. It wasn't surprising that he had been chosen by the system. Additionally, he completed the dragon-slaying task, earning the Dragon Slayer's heart. Calling him a walking humanoid boss wouldn't be an exaggeration. Now was time for the reward. Behind him, a thick smoke began to rise. The mighty black dragon returned to life with a deafening roar. Patting its head, the young man said they met again, calling it a friend. Although erasing its memory had been cruel, he hoped there was no lingering resentment. But there was no time for sentimentality. Mounting its head, he commanded the dragon to return to the fortress. Quickly, Atos took flight toward their destination. The elf remarked that all the dragons had disappeared, indicating that the black dragon had been defeated, and she wondered who could have done it. At that moment, she saw Atos in the sky and was stunned. With a loud crash and fierce wind, the dragon landed nearby. Shielding herself, she questioned how it was possible. Looking up, she noticed something that made her alert. Yang extended his hand, saying he had come to rescue her. Lilith thought the black dragon had returned and wondered who this human was. She asked if he had tamed the dragon and received a positive response. She wondered how it was possible, as the beast was the most powerful and violent. They despised everything, and not even death could subdue them. Strong elves had tried to tame the dragon before, but all had failed. Now this one was being ridden by a young man, leaving her to question who he was, perhaps a dragon slayer. The young man asked what she was doing there and urged her to run and climb up. Still puzzled, she took his hand and climbed on. The princess clung to him nervously as the dragon took off, making her scream. Seeing her discomfort, he told her to open her eyes because the view was magnificent. Cautiously, the princess peeked and was captivated by the sight of the mountains above the clouds, calling it a beautiful scene. He asked how she felt now that she was free. She replied that she had finally broken her chains. Her entire body and mind felt relaxed. He assured her that soon she would experience true freedom. She wondered if he had always desired to leave that place too. Gently stroking the dragon, Lilith remarked that she hadn't expected things to be hard for it. Yang noticed but chose not to intervene for the moment. The portal lay just ahead. They'd soon be flying out. Outside the fortress, a group leader surrounded by monsters ordered his team to clear the area to finish their task. Hearing noises from the sky, they wondered if it would rain. Moments later, the massive dragon soared overhead, startling them. With an ear-piercing roar, Atos landed. The warriors scattered, shouting that the boss had arrived. Amused, Yang apologized for the dramatic entrance and for scaring them. The girl commented that his manner of speaking made him sound like a villain. She asked where they were going, and he replied that he'd take her to the Lord's mansion, as they should know how to return her home. Reluctantly, she said she didn't want that. He asked where she wanted to go, and she inquired if she could stay with him. Originally, she had promised to marry whoever saved her, but she found that idea too embarrassing. While fairy tales might end with the brave man living happily with the princess, his intention hadn't been to rescue her. Still, he allowed her to accompany him for now. Changing the subject, Lilith asked how he managed to tame the black dragon, but he said it was a secret. In the city, a loud roar echoed. Lemur was startled, asking if it was the black dragon. Joe wondered how a dungeon boss could appear outside. Woozy asked what it was, and Makiko replied that it sounded like a roar, wondering if dragons had descended upon Chanling City. Pointing to the street, she suggested they go take a look. In the direction she indicated, a man hid, remarking that she had potential for sensing his presence. He said they could proceed as the city's lord had granted permission and was on his way. Meanwhile, at the fortress entrance, the princess asked if they were leaving as Yang meditated. He told her to wait a bit longer. Looking toward the horizon, he remarked that someone was approaching. Amid the crowd, one of them said the sound was coming from that direction. If it were a world boss, Yu noted it was outside the dragon's fortress and causing quite a stir. As they approached the creature, they were frightened, wondering why the dungeon boss was outside. Dismounting the dragon nonchalantly, the young man greeted Mr. Jia, saying it had been a long time, leaving the latter startled. Wei Ming asked the lord if he knew the young man. Defensively, Jia explained he had only met him once and that he was a VIP at the Transformation Temple. The city lord asked if he had tamed the dragon, and the young man replied that he could see for himself. The lord exclaimed that it was impossible, as a creature of such caliber was untamable, and asked for proof. The dragon let out a piercing roar until ordered to stop. The princess appeared, saying the dragon had frightened her. Seeing the girl, the man believed him, then began to wonder how strong the young man was and how old he truly was. Among the Global Tamers Association, there was one person who had tamed a dragon, and the Lord questioned why someone so powerful was in his small city, Chanling. In his astonishment and a hint of admiration, the man stumbled and fell to his knees before the young man, startling him. An awkward silence settled between Mr. Jia, the kneeling man, and the young man. Yang extended a hand to help him up, saying there was no need for formalities. The system began issuing a notification that the first boss mission was completed and the next one had been located. He wondered if another boss was arriving so soon. Liu, the men in front of him, puzzled. Now standing, Wei Ming introduced himself and asked if the young man was from the Global Tamers Association, apologizing for not greeting him earlier, further unsettling Yang. Jia remarked that they hadn't received any official visit. We speculated it might have been discreet, but the teleportation center would have kept a record. Makiko emerged among them, asking to join the conversation, startling everyone. The Lord asked if she was the one from Sakura City. She extended her hand to Yang, introducing herself and saying she sought guidance on taming a dragon. But then she noted that taming secrets were personal for every beast tamer. Though interrupted, Yang finally managed to say he wasn't a dragon tamer. The three were shocked and a bit bewildered. They bombarded him with questions: how he tamed the dragon, how black dragons were untamable, and about their characteristics. Yang said he had his methods, wouldn't share them, and asked the Lord to alert the city about his visit to avoid panic since he planned to travel on the dragon. Ming assured him he'd notify the city, reflecting that even after taming a dragon, the young man still considered public reaction. The stronger someone was, the more approachable they seemed. Asura asked if she could report his accomplishments to her mentor, leaving Yang intrigued. The Lord introduced her, explaining she was from the Tamers Association and her mentor was a high-ranking figure. Yang thought she was similar to Linger, but with a different personality. Bowing, she said her mentor was one of the 9 heads of the association. Though not a tamer himself, having tamed a black dragon would draw attention, including from her mentor. Yang felt pressured since tamers were of the 8th or 9th level. A group of tamers seeking his advice was unimaginable. Mounting the dragon, he said he had matters to attend to and would discuss things later, then bid farewell as they took off. Wei reported the event to Elder Lei and suggested Asura return to the city. Looking skyward with sadness, she mused about how it would feel to have a dragon one day. High above the mountains, the dragon flew over the city. Linger, passing through, saw them. They locked eyes, and she realized Yang had tamed the black dragon. She remarked that she was envious but had a long way to go. Drying her tears, she resolved to grow stronger, tame a dragon, and surpass him. A citywide announcement in Chanling warned about the dragon flying overhead, assuring everyone it was tamed to prevent panic. The enormous creature flew over the city, leaving everyone in awe and amazement. All of Chanling buzzed with talk about the dragon, speculating who could have tamed it and recounting tales of the team that had fought it. Outside the house, a maid was cleaning when Eidos landed in the yard, startling her. Yang appeared, apologizing for scaring her. He explained he hadn't intended to draw attention, but since he wasn't a tamer, he had no place to store the dragon. Showing off wasn't his intention. Everything had just fallen into place. Lilith asks if she would stay there. The young man asks if she could get used to living there. She says the place is spacious and clean, so she likes it. The young man tells her to feel free to choose a room as he has matters to attend to, and to ask the maid for help if needed. The girl says she'll leave him to it. Watching her, he thinks he was worried it would be hard to accommodate a princess, but she's genuine and down to earth, much better than those with a princess complex. In his room, he decides it's time to deal with the new boss and asks the system for information about it. A notification appears stating that the boss is the Abyss Demon, a sovereign original sin at god level. Hearing the level, he feels both fear and unease. According to the classification system, starting from the 5th level, every 50 levels is a rank. Legendary levels are Starlight, Moonlight, and Sunlight. Additionally, those who complete the trials of the gods can ascend to the semi-god level. From there, they can rise to the god level. It's an extreme progression. Taming a Starlight tier Flame Wing had already granted him an impressive transformation, so he wonders what he might become this time. He confirms the connection to the new boss. The god level demon boss awakens. Its strength is 523,213, with powers of sovereignty, omniscience, lord of original sin, and source of all demons. Hundreds of thousands of attributes, incredible resistances, and absurd talents mean the only way to kill it is by destroying all demons in the Abyss. He asks the system to explain the boss's unique characteristics. The Abyss Demon is in a dungeon or hidden realm like the elf or dragon kingdoms. Its connection to the human world functions like a dungeon. On the 1st level, adventurers delve in, fighting and exploring. Defeating demons grants experience and rewards, making it a prime leveling ground. The deeper they go, the stronger the demons become. Humanity's deepest reach in the Abyss was the 386th floor. Only SSS-ranked guilds can face god-level bosses. They'll be his future opponents, and he wonders how close they are to the deepest level. That boss is invincible. Anxious, he wonders how he'll kill it and move on to the next boss. How long will it take before he gets the chance? In front of him are several seats. He thinks those are the thrones of the 7 kings commanded by the sovereign and wonders where they are. Looking closely, 4 of the thrones have glowing runes while the others are dark and lifeless. Those must have been defeated by adventurers. Since he's there, he decides to test his second talent, sovereign power, and strikes a random spot. From the smoke emerges a monster with many eyes and mouths, asking if it has been resurrected. Its name is Blazing. It calls him King Astonished. The monster has multiple legs. Bowing before him, it thanks him, saying it had become weak and brought shame to its name. Startled, he wonders if the 7 deadly sins shouldn't at least be semi-god level, but he just resurrected a weak one. It only has 2 talents. Like the embodiment of gluttony, Beelzebub gains strength by consuming others. He can offer up to 2% of everything he devours as tribute to the sovereign. If the attribute is offered to the sovereign of original sin, it wouldn't make much difference. But if given to his true self, it could light up instantly. Beelzebub appears, and they hear someone knocking, as if on a door. He orders Beelzebub to return to the guard post and wait for a new summons, warning him not to disappoint next time. Before leaving, Beelzebub swears to make all humans pay and to offer a great tribute to the king. The system issues a notification, prompting him to reflect on having resurrected the weakest of the 7 great demon kings. So returns to his human form and reflects that when in the form of the Sin Lord, he feels like he has the power to control everything and command any situation. While thinking, someone knocks on the door asking to enter. A girl enters, saying that Lord Wei-Ming wants to speak with him personally. He follows the girl to the man, who says he's finally found the young man. The 2 exchange greetings, and Sue asks what the man wants. He explains that it's about the power to tame a dragon. The fact that he tamed the black dragon, one of the most powerful, has spread, and now everyone is talking about it. Because of this, the leader of the beast tamers will visit the boy, and Sue becomes concerned about how soon the man will arrive. Meanwhile, at the transport center, the place is packed, and 2 people ask why they can't pass through with their VIP passes. The crowd begins demanding passage, wondering what's happening and speculating that someone important is arriving. A man announces that the global leader of beast taming is about to arrive. Lu Dashi introduces himself and apologizes for the commotion, leaving everyone shocked to see the master present. The young girl from the TNG pavilion greets him, saying it's been a long time since they last met. She explains that she came for the black dragon but was defeated by someone stronger. Trying to reassure her, Lu advises her not to cling to superficial titles and reminds her of what truly matters. Lu begins recounting the story of the secret dragon realm, where everyone entering has the chance to win great rewards. He explains that the only person in the world accompanied by a dragon was Vilria, who began taming beasts long ago. He concludes that research suggests the stronger the dragon companion, the greater the blessings and rewards. Dashi explains that they'll soon open the opportunity to tame other dragons and encourages the young girl to try, to which she replies she'll aim for the silver dragon. Wanting to help, the leader invites her to join him in meeting the person who tamed the black dragon. Without hesitation, she turns away, running off, saying she suddenly remembered something urgent to do. Lu continues his journey to meet Sue. At home, the protagonist hears a noise and wonders what it could be. Suddenly, a fiery explosion occurs, and it's explained that the dragon taming leader has arrived. One of the animals wakes up, roaring loudly. On the ground, a bright flash lights up the sky, and the pair begin questioning the elder's arrival. Mounted on a giant fire beast, Lu Dashi arrives to meet the protagonist. He dismounts, apologizes for the dramatic entrance, and is greeted by Wei-Ming, who introduces Sue to the leader. Surprised, the elder calls the young man a rare genius for taming a black dragon at such a young age, though Sue insists it was just luck. Laughing, Lu tells him not to be modest and that he should be proud of his accomplishment. He invites him to join the association. Reflecting, Sue explains that he's not a dragon tamer and therefore can't join. Ignoring this, the elder insists it's not a problem but falters upon realizing Sue is serious about not being a dragon tamer. Sue shows his registration, proving he's merely a warrior. Lu turns away, asking the young man to wait a moment. He checks the records and consults other members, asking if they can accept the protagonist into the association. Quickly returning, Lu offers him an honorary membership, and Sue asks what they want from him. The leader explains they just need him to give a few lessons on dragon taming. Pondering, Sue thinks this is an opportunity he can't ignore but remains uncertain about accepting the offer. Calling for Lu, Sue expresses doubt about his experience helping the association, but the elder reassures him there's no pressure. Convinced, Sue agrees to join the dragon taming group. It's explained that transfer statues have been descending in various locations, with a central world area designated as the Holy City's transfer temple headquarters. The highest authority there is Euphemia Vega, a divine being who has never left the Holy City. Euphemia is introduced, but her level remains undisclosed. 10 years ago, the president of the SS Rank Guild, after completing the 9 rounds of the Trial of the Gods and ascending to semi-god status, sought to challenge her. Augustin, the SSS Rank Guild president, is presented. The result of this challenge was that he couldn't even breach the defensive shield released by the Divine High Priestess. Since then, no one has dared to question the Transfer Temple's authority. In the present, Euphemia notes anomalies detected in the abyss of demons, with Beelzebub reappearing for unknown reasons. Reflecting, she suspects an unknown mechanism behind these recent events. A figure approaches and pays respect to her. She requests guidance as she prepares to witness the descent into the abyss of endless darkness to spread the divine light. The young woman's skill is introduced, revealing her ability to see any location in the world, regardless of distance, space, or time. Quickly, she visits the abyss of demons and wonders if that might be the thorn of the 7 deadly sins. The record of the deepest level of the abyss is explained, where every 100 levels a cane of sin appears. Euphemia Vega continues observing the area and approaches something massive that catches her attention. She orders the demon to reveal its true form before the sacred light. Upon seeing the revelation, she realizes it is, in fact, a human. A voice emerges, questioning who dares spy on the king. It commands the intruder to leave, introducing itself as Lucifer, the Queen of Pride. The High Priestess grows irritated at being ordered away but complies and departs. Lucifer mocks her, calling her a coward for fleeing so easily. After the encounter, Lucifer reports seeing someone watching her master. She wonders when she will see the king's face again. Back at the Transfer Temple, Euphemia reflects on what she saw and admits she didn't expect an entity more powerful than the King of Sins. Curious, she wonders who the young man could be. An explosion occurs, which Vega believes to be a global announcement. It is announced that the world-class boss, monarch of the 7 deadly sins, has appeared in the deepest level of the abyss of demons. Carolina, the president of the Global Beast Taming Association, is introduced alongside Augustin, the mage, and Tang Zhan, a president of the Immortal War Domain. Some people are shocked to hear about a world-class boss, noting that not even a demigod boss has reached world-class status. Upon hearing this, Su wonders if he has become a world-class boss. Lu apologizes and says he must leave Su alone for a while as he's receiving calls. Concerned, the woman speaking with Su says she doesn't know what will happen to the world due to the recent anomalies. Calming her, Su reassures her that he is there to protect her. Reflecting, Su knows what might happen but realizes he must first make some necessary preparations. He also contemplates weapons, artifacts, his ranking, and goals now that he has advanced significantly. He concludes that as the monarch of the 7 deadly sins, defeating the kings of sin might allow him to acquire the weapons of the reverse sin series. Still deep in thought, Su considers that it's fine for his subordinates to dedicate themselves to him, and he can use his powers to resurrect them. However, he notes that the resurrection wait time is rather long and wishes it could be shortened. Su reflects that currently the strongest professionals in the world are only at the demigod level, while the next expansion is called Ascension to Divinity. He thinks about how veterans previously climbed to difficult levels but decides to focus on completing the 5-star mission of his 4th profession. Many people approach the castle. Augustin comments on the coincidence of everyone arriving simultaneously. Irritated by the old man's comments, Carolina calls him a drunk and remarks on how surprising it is that he woke up early. Tang Zhan interrupts, stating that everyone must take the situation seriously given what's happening in the world. Poker says he received an invitation from the priestess explaining that this was an extraordinary meeting. A group enters the room noting how lively the place is. They are surprised to see Augustin, Carolina, Tang Zhan, and Poker. Still surprised, they mention having seen the leaders on television before. Euphemia appears and thanks everyone for responding to her call, stating that the assembly's purpose is clear. She begins explaining the return of Beelzebub and his resurrection, adding that according to the statue's guidance, they might obtain weapons to kill the monarch. The priestess continues, stating that everyone present is among the world's best combatants and could accomplish the task of eradicating the demon. Presenting photos and details, she discusses the depth reached in the abyss of demons, noting that only 3 kings of sin have been identified. Augustin and Tang are at level 372, and with their experience, Euphemia asks how many more levels they believe the abyss has. Pondering, the mage suggests there might be around 3 more floors. Tang offers his opinion as well. The woman concludes that to advance to the 700th floor, they would need to level up, making it a very long journey. Seeking a solution, the meeting continues and Poker asks how the weapons from the Reverse Sin series dropped by the boss would be distributed. The others grow suspicious of his question. He explains his reasoning, insisting he's not trying to gain an advantage. The discussion becomes quite heated about who will get which weapon. Euphemia interrupts by shouting and demands silence. She irritably explains how the divisions will be made. Poker apologizes, saying he was just anxious. Tang suggests an idea and proposes a way they could proceed. The other members don't seem to fully agree with the suggestion. Euphemia asks how they could determine which country is relatively weaker, but Tang says that's not the issue at the moment. A vote on Tang's proposal is initiated. 8% of the attendees vote in favor, leading to the proposal's approval. Carolina raises her hand and is called to speak. The president begins discussing the dragon spirit's secret realm, pondering that entering it could greatly increase their skill levels. Augustin also gives his opinion on her remarks. During the discussion, they mention Su and note that he has recently joined the association as an honorary member. Poker questions why the boy was accepted as an honorary member instead of a full member. Carolina explains that this is what she wanted to reveal. Su Yang is not a beast tamer, but a warrior. Everyone is shocked. The mage is surprised, stating that he had tried to tame dragons using his abilities but never succeeded. The president responds that just because he couldn't do it doesn't mean others can't. He retorts by calling her old. Irritated, she asks who he's calling old, and Poker intervenes, pointing out that everyone is watching their argument. Some noises occur and people still believe it's impossible to tame a dragon as a mere warrior. Even Euphemia struggles to believe a young man did what many seasoned individuals couldn't. Carolina suggests the priestess verify the boy's information before the next meeting. Quickly, Euphemia accesses the system and reviews Su's profile. The news that he defeated the Black Dragon with only 3 transformations astonishes Poker, who questions who Su really is. Tangzhen admits he's never heard of such a thing in his life and acknowledges the boy is truly a genius. Resolute, the president states they plan to invite Su to give lectures and share his experience. She concludes that even if he's not a tamer, the task is achievable and perhaps they had been using the wrong methods. The others remain skeptical, dismissing the idea as nonsense, insisting it's impossible for a regular person to tame a dragon. Trying to persuade her, Poker questions whether she thinks it's right for the dragon's spirit realm to no longer be exclusive and instead become global. Pragmatically, Augustin announces he will begin searching for Longjia immediately. He assures that he won't exploit the boy, only negotiate fair trades where everyone benefits. Elsewhere, Su sneezes and wonders if even high-level professionals can catch a cold. A new task appears, and upon reviewing it, he realizes it's quite challenging, on par with the Black Dragon Fortress. However, he concludes it's not a challenge for him and plans to complete it quickly. He decides to head out and informs his staff that he'll return shortly. In the frozen city, a group walks, questioning what kind of dungeon it is as the freezing conditions intensify rapidly. Suddenly, a giant monster appears, terrifying the group members. Su arrives and tells them not to panic but to leave the task immediately, as it's his turn now. Everyone is shocked to see the protagonist in person, having heard of his feats, and marvels at him tackling the dungeon alone. With the Black Dragon at his side, Su rumbles about the cold. Suddenly, numerous monsters emerge and attack him. The domesticated dragon roars, scaring some of the monsters away. Su notes that he's seen similar monsters in other missions, giving him confidence in handling them. He declares he won't waste time on minor monsters and aims to face the boss directly. A massive fire explosion occurs. The Ice Master appears, demanding to know who dares destroy his palace. Determined, the dragon charges forward without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, the boss is defeated following another icy explosion, completing the challenge, much to Su's surprise at how easy it was. Someone approaches the dungeon with plans to challenge it. A man warns them not to bother, as the boss will likely destroy the mission within minutes. The waiting girls don't understand. He explains that the man who tamed the dragon is completing the mission, and they're only waiting to scavenge whatever he leaves behind. Almost giving up, a girl decides to wait for the next opportunity, but another insists on staying to at least collect some of the leftovers. More people approach. One of the men explains that since they're already there, they should stay to witness the glory of the boss. Augustus and Tang join the group, asking if there's room for a few more. Suddenly, everything starts vibrating. They notice the great black dragon emerging, and some start asking for autographs. The pink-haired girl becomes ecstatic upon seeing that a handsome boy is the one controlling the creature. The others are shocked to see Su Yang. Some are confused about whether he's truly the boss, since he's only level 80. Calmly, the young man remarks that it's been a while since he's seen the girls. They ask if he's really the one who tamed the dragon, and he confirms it. Trying to help his friends, he decides to check the collected materials. He finds an ice heart in his inventory and says Shiaksu can have it. Embarrassed, the girl says she can't accept it since it's a valuable item, but Su insists, saying it's perfect for her. The pink-haired girl urges her friend to accept the gift. Feeling uncomfortable, Su asks them not to treat him so formally, reminding them they're all friends despite him taming dragons. Suddenly, something happens to Eidos, and Su asks what's wrong. Looking closer, he's surprised. Someone is sitting on the dragon, petting it. Confused, he thinks that only a few people can touch the creature without provoking resistance and wonders who this man is. He approaches and asks the elder who he is, while the girls mention smelling a strong scent of alcohol. It's Augustus, who assures them he means no harm. But Su remains skeptical, thinking it might be a group using spatial teleportation since he couldn't detect the spell being cast. Impressed by the technique, Su asks for their names and their purpose. Tang and Augustus introduce themselves and state their titles. Su Yang is stunned, unsure why such important figures are interested in him. He decides to ask if they want to discuss dragon taming techniques. Both agree eagerly, expressing their impatience to tame the creature, while suddenly casting a spell that suffocates Su. Tang scolds the drunken elder, telling him to control his magic or risk alarming the people of Longjia. They explain that Carolina had already briefed them about Su, and that they're here to exchange information. Augustus offers Su some forbidden spell scrolls in exchange for his insights. Stu ponders the deal since he only has 2 scrolls and acquiring more could be beneficial. Wary, he acknowledges that these two are high-level professionals, and if they realize he's bluffing, it could end disastrously. Finally, he maintains his composure but asks for a magic skills book instead of scrolls. The drunken elder doesn't understand why a warrior would need a magic book. Tang interjects, explaining that hybrid mage warriors exist, so it's not uncommon. Admitting his mistake, Augustus reveals that he himself is a warrior who can use magic, then offers Su a book for the trade. Su thanks him, stating he'll use the book later. Before starting, Su warns that even if he teaches them about dragon taming, there's no guarantee of success, to which Augustus agrees. A barrier to prevent eavesdropping is cast. Minutes pass. Su asks if they're satisfied with what they've learned. The elder quickly departs, eager to find a dragon's sanctuary to test the techniques. Tang admits he had doubts, but now believes after Su's explanation. Something happens with the magic book. Tang's ability is transferred to Su through the book, leaving the elder embarrassed. Tang assures Su that when he tames a dragon, he'll be notified. Su reflects, realizing that the best reward will come from taming the secret dragon's spirit. Nonetheless, Tang confirms Su is fully accepted since they validated his true talent, but informs him he must head to the demon abyss. Curious, Su asks why that location was chosen, given other options exist. Tang explains that ever since Su completed the 5-star level, he's been involved in the Red Moon invasion. He continues elaborating on the connection between the Red Moon and the demon abyss. Many people died during that phase, and it's essential to train in the abyss. Su reflects on what he just heard, suspecting there might be something hidden in the proposal. The two part ways, but the elder's words linger in Su's thoughts. Still deep in thought, Su realizes that taming the black dragon wasn't enough, and he's far from reaching the highest levels. Determined to grow stronger, he begins progressing toward his next advancement. Using the magic book, he activates new abilities. A girl approaches, congratulating him on his progress, but asking why he doesn't seem happy. Smiling, he admits he's just lost in thought. He knows he must stick to his plan to continue advancing quickly. A demon appears, summoning Raffle Samel to obey his command. The summoned beast asks for the order. In the name of the Lord, Samel is granted death and ordered to return to the abyss of darkness. Outraged, Samel asks what he did to deserve death. The boss evaluates Beelzebub's power and reviews Samel's profile, concluding that it's the best decision. Unwilling to accept it, Samel questions who the boy thinks he is to challenge him. Refusing his fate, Samel declares he won't accept the monarch's will and claims his rage has nowhere to go. Reflecting, the monster wonders if this is the nature of wrath. The monarch explains that granting death isn't a punishment and that he considered other factors, promising a grand return through resurrection. Convinced, Samel agrees and vows to wait patiently in the depths. A giant sword appears, striking Samel directly, who then marvels at the Supreme Monarch's power and depth. It's explained that death means nothing, and that he should wait in the depths. The 100th level of the Demon Abyss is revealed. A giant insect there questions how Samel died, since no one has reached that level since his revival. Killing the helper yields 134 billion experience points, leveling Su to 85 in the demigod rank. Su realizes that this experience is sufficient to maintain his level after completing the 5th job challenge. Seeking rest, he decides to check what items Samel left behind. Several objects are revealed, including a king's heart, demon's horn, and source of demonic power. He reads that they provide 10,000 max health and 10,000 strength points, wondering what kind of outrageous items these are. With all of this, his strength increases 5-fold and his health multiplies by 1,000, deeming it insane. Su is thrilled at the wealth of rewards he gains simply by sending Samel to the depths of the abyss. Handling the black flame wings will now be easy, since no one has more health than him. The other items can serve as artifact materials. Reflecting on the location, Su suspects that the Demon Abyss is similar to the Red Moon and might house a being of sin. He theorizes that those who die there may be resurrected, while those who are killed cannot. Thus, if there's a true monarch, they might be stronger than the King of Sin. Deciding to shelve these thoughts for now, Su focuses on his current goal, defeating the true King of Sin. Quickly, he equips all the items. The attributes are incredible, and the effects have no restrictions. However, he realizes this is only a fraction and wonders about the reverse sin weapons. He regrets not having consistent luck and waits for the next opportunity, disconnecting from the system. Before logging out, a special drops option appears, one that wasn't there before. He quickly accepts. A new weapon emerges. Finally, he understands why reverse sin weapons are considered essential for defeating the king. Stu decides to test his new artifact. A figure emerges requesting the monarch's permission to return from the abyss with some news. The girl reappears, apologizing for returning without permission and requesting punishment before delivering her message. Angry, Su scolds her for returning without authorization but wonders if the Queen of Pride is a masochist. Uncertain of what transpired, he decides to play the role of Supreme Sovereign for now. He chooses to punish the girl for her offenses and insubordination. Badly injured, the girl continues pleading for a milder punishment. She continues to receive lashes. The monarch doubles her punishment for her arrogance and overstepping boundaries, stating that only he decides the punishment, not her. The young woman apologizes for her arrogance, and the master asks what news she brings. Without hesitation, the queen reports that some humans have appeared in the abyss, and she believes one of them is the priestess. Reflecting on this, he concludes that the woman's strength must be extraordinary to have reached the 3rd level of the abyss. Su looks at the young woman, puzzled by how she could have reached the divine level. He thanks her and orders her to return to her guard post. As she retreats, the girl wonders if Samel was killed and expresses her willingness to die for her beloved king. Pondering recent events, the monarch acknowledges the hidden powers within the Temple of Transmutation, but decides to focus on his strength and completing his next transformations to reach the legendary level. The Eagle Beauty Federation is shown. Augustus is frustrated for following Su Yang's method, failing to tame the dragon and merely injuring it severely. He complains about his lack of success with 3 dragons so far. Suddenly, a message in his system catches his attention. It reveals a change in the temple's rules, leaving him utterly infuriated. Outraged, he wonders if Tang Jiran is behind the situation and deems it disrespectful and defiant to disobey temple rules, vowing there will be consequences. The land of Sakuras is shown. Lord Takugawa asks how confident Asui's daughter is in taming a dragon, noting he heard a genius had already tamed the black dragon. Without hesitation, the man replies that his daughter has a 70% chance of taming a red dragon. In that case, the Lord says they'll move on to discuss matters related to the demon abyss. A worldwide announcement declares that the first reverse weapon has been obtained. The group panics as they had agreed to be the first to acquire the weapon. They wonder who dared to get the artifact before them. Takugawa summons Shogunate, ordering a journey to the Holy City for answers. Priests and leaders from various nations flock to the Holy City to seek clarity on the recent announcement. The Order's priestess commands the gates to be opened and the barriers lowered to allow entry. While awaiting everyone's arrival, she reflects on how long it's been since such betrayal occurred, recognizing that this is far from good. The meeting begins and Takugawa speaks first, arguing that they had agreed to claim the reverse weapon first and calling the person who took it a thief. Facing the assembly, the priestess admits someone indeed violated the rules, insisting it's not a provocation. Nonetheless, she offers redemption if the thief admits their mistake and returns the artifact. She swears by the statue that otherwise the person responsible won't escape accountability. A powerful energy surges as she makes several oaths, declaring that if the culprit lies, the sacred light will expose them, leaving no escape. The light shines over many people, refusing to dissipate. Carolina observes that the light remains on everyone's heads, proving no one there took the weapon. Tang Zhan suggests one person hasn't undergone the test, the priestess herself. The priestess acknowledges her oversight in not including herself in the truth detection process, conceding that suspicion naturally falls on her. After a great burst of light, she asks if they are satisfied. They apologize, admitting their error, and request the light to be extinguished. Augustus asks for forgiveness on behalf of the group, emphasizing their trust in the priestess and affirming her strength makes her above petty actions. However, since the spell showed no lies, it's clear no one there is guilty, leaving him to ponder who killed the king of original sin. Carolina suggests that several demigod-level experts weren't present, so they might be responsible. Augustus agrees it's possible but notes there's no evidence. She explains her spell isn't just a lie detector. Even if someone didn't participate, revealing the killer would be considered betrayal, yet no one spoke. They speculate the priestess is lost, questioning who could have committed the assassination. She remarks that it's a peculiar incident, but since it's now a fact, suggests they continue observing future developments. Turning to Lord Takugawa, she asks if the Sakura nation will continue with the next challenge. He replies that they want to continue but regrets that their strength is insufficient. In that case, she states, based on the draw order, the Water Union will take over Sakura Nation's task of exploring the abyss, and the temple will compensate them. Augustin, smiling, says you will follow her grand instructions. The Lord affirms that Sakura Nation has no objections. The priestess announces that the entrances to the demon abyss for all nations will be guarded through exchanges with the Holy City to ensure controlled access and avoid incidents. In the city, Yang steps out, saying that with the original sin weapon in hand and his experience points maxed out, he should hurry and change his class. The system issues an announcement indicating that the progress of defeating world-class bosses is 1/7. He is surprised by the notice but relieved his name wasn't mentioned. Otherwise, people would come after him. He resolves to be cautious with his actions. He not let anyone know he possesses the original sin weapon. Even in dangerous situations, he must refrain from using it to avoid severe consequences. Concerned about slowing down his class transition, he realizes that since only a day has passed since completing the 4th transition task, taking the 5th immediately might raise suspicions. Stepping out of the house, he thinks he cannot wait any longer and wonders how to resolve this. He comes across a maid washing clothes and thanks her for her hard work. Approaching her, he takes her hand and mentions recalling a washing machine, asking her not to hurt her hands. She blushes, flustered by his approach. From a distance, she shouts back that machines are convenient, but she prefers hand washing for thorough cleaning, as clean clothes make her happy. Hearing that, he muses that perhaps even dark experiences can become white if cleansed properly, provided one finds the right place and stays there long enough. He considers 2 options, the dragon's spirit realm or the demon abyss. For the former, he would need a giant dragon, while the latter might already have young trainees present. Additionally, minimizing the number of people entering the secret realm before it opens would be even more advantageous for him. Those capable of taming the black dragon include Linger and a few other genius tamers from various countries. However, he doesn't need to target them for now. He can simply transform into a giant dragon hunter and eliminate all existing giant dragons before the realm opens. Inside the house, Yang asks Bai Ling to check the current information on the secret realms of the giant dragons in Longxia. She provides the locations of all the cities in the four corners of Longxia, and he asks her to reserve a spot for the Silver Dragon's secret realm. She remarks, somewhat puzzled, that the top 50 reservations for the Silver Dragon's secret realm all belong to the Tianji Pavilion. Smiling, he notes that Lu is undoubtedly trying to capture other giant dragons, but it's unfortunate that she's running into his line of fire again. He can only pity her. He then asks if temple VIPs don't have priority access to secret realms. She explains that as long as he makes a reservation, only a 5-star member could intervene. Yang acknowledges this and asks her to secure a reservation. Relaxed, he wonders what there is to fear from the Tianji Pavilion. As an honorary member and tamer with both titles, they wouldn't dare act recklessly, especially since he holds an ace. With over 10 million HP and 30,000 strength, unless they send a 7-star class from the pavilion, he wouldn't hesitate to deal with a few careless individuals while he's there. Holding the artifacts, he wonders how to consume the 2 items, sensing that merely swallowing them might not be ideal. Various ideas cross his mind, making a stew with the meat, frying the heart, or even preparing a dessert, but none appeal to him. He dismisses these thoughts, recognizing his lack of cooking skills, and notes that outsourcing the task might risk leaking information. He wonders if the black flames could help. Resolving not to overthink, he convinces himself it's just raw food and his stomach will handle it. The arcane warrior consumes the items, causing a massive light explosion in his room, startling a maid outside. Terrified, the maid imagines her master is on fire and rushes inside. She bursts through the door with enough force to shatter the glass and damage the wall, shouting to ask what happened. The young man, who has undergone a significant physical transformation due to the items, asks if she noticed anything strange. The maid, embarrassed, slams the door shut, saying she didn't see anything wrong and is relieved that he's okay, while the master reflects on how close he was to being discovered. Checking his status window, the arcane warrior notes he can withstand numerous attacks without losing even a fraction of his health, and that with a flick of his fingers, he could trigger a landslide. With such power, he feels confident he could face the star-tier black dragon. As he dresses, he continues praising his new stats, saying the explosive boosts and attributes makes him eager to hunt monsters, and every joint in his body hums with joy. After stretching a bit, the young man decides to visit Lilith, wondering how she's adjusting to living there. He knocks on her door, announcing that he's coming in. Opening the door and seeing no one, he wonders where she might be. Walking through the room, he notices a figure, and turning, he sees the main occupant just stepping out of the bath, wrapped in a towel. Both are flustered, and nervously, he defends himself, saying he knocked on the door. She raises her arm, and covering his eyes, he pleads not to be slapped in the face. However, the slap doesn't come. Instead, the girl dashes to her bed, hiding from his sight. Lilith, embarrassed, asks why he was in such a rush. Still flustered, he remarks that this isn't good. Summoning all his courage, Yang turns and apologizes, saying he has other matters to attend to, and quickly leaves, leaving her confused. After the door closes, the elf laughs, saying she didn't expect him to be so innocent. Looking out the window, she remarks how different he is from people in the royal court. In Ju City, a level 2 main city within the Tianji Pavilion headquarters, a shout echoes, demanding to know what happened. Linger, furious, demands Tang Sai explain how someone reserved ahead of her and who it was. He replies that the reservation was made by someone very special. The man explains that it was a VIP from the temple, and his subordinates didn't know who it was. The huntress, intrigued, wonders if it could be Arcane Warrior again, and if it's just a coincidence. Sai suggests she head to the Silver Dragon realm and negotiate with him. Enraged, she orders him out, and he rolls out the door. Deeply concerned, the girl realizes that if it's really Yang, she stands no chance of competing and decides to call her professor. When he answers, her demeanor softens and she asks if he's busy. He asks what she needs. On the call, the huntress explains her plans to explore the Silver Dragon realm, but mentions that Su may have made a VIP reservation. She asks if he could speak to him, and he agrees. After ending the call, she waits anxiously for a response, pacing back and forth, making those around her just as nervous. After a long wait, the professor sends a message saying the arcane warrior declined. Linger asks how he could refuse given the professor's authority in the association, and he responds that Yang has become very famous, even catching the attention of the god of war. Shocked, the huntress reflects on how extraordinary his talent must be for even Tang Jian to take notice. Zhao approaches, asking what their next move should be, but she walks away without responding. Pouting with tears in her eyes, the princess stops and tells the man they should depart immediately. In the Silver Dragon's secret realm, approaching the monster and checking its status, Yang notes that the dragon doesn't seem to have any special lineage as it lacks a name. The beast detects him and exhales a massive blast of blue fire in his direction. However, the man slices through the fierce attack with a single sword strike. Displaying his power, he tells the dragon not to move and begins unleashing energy, remarking that it's rare to find a decent punching bag and he'll use it to test his newfound strength. A rain of granite follows from the impact of his attack. Dodging the falling rocks, Yang comments that it's far too slow. A giant boulder hurtles toward him, but he casually remarks that it's just a demonstration. The boulder shatters against his body, and he marvels at the resilience that defies the heavens as it barely scratches him. The dragon, enraged, lets out a deafening roar and charges at him. He performs a special attack, striking the ground twice. However, Yang stops the attack with one hand, stating that the creature was no different from a chicken to him. The young man counters with his sword, shouting for it to go far away. With a loud crash, the beast falls to the ground, and before it can react, its opponent leaps onto it, sword in hand. With a single stroke, the silver dragon is sliced in half. The attribute points appear on the screen. His sword absorbed 10% of the silver dragon's attributes. Yang remarks that the dragon clan excelled in magical attacks. It's a pity he killed it before witnessing them, and he wonders if slaying more dragons would grant him additional marks. The sword begins emitting a silver line down the center of its blade, and he muses about what would happen if all the lines were filled. A moment later, he summons Atos to feast. The beast quickly starts devouring the remains of the silver dragon. After the explosive boost in attributes, Yang notes that levels and armor no longer hold much meaning and wonders if this is the loneliness that comes with ascension. Even the black dragon's attributes increased by 10%, and Yang laments that he himself couldn't devour the attributes as well. The young man starts reflecting on the traits of gluttony and rage, which involve stealing attributes, but since they lie dormant, they can only steal by defeating others. He wonders if, in the real world, they would be capable of stealing and creating genuine offerings. If so, he could grow infinitely and continuously. He plans to obtain real offerings to collect the reverse sin weapon set, defeat the world-class boss alone, and advance to the next expansion. In any case, in this world, death was insignificant since rebirth was easy, and humans were merely resources. Snapping back to reality, he wonders how to bring the king to Earth without rancors killing him, as such an event would leave him without sufficient resources and cause significant loss. Deciding to stop overthinking, he resolves to head to the next secret dragon realm. Atos has finished his meal. Above him, a notification appears stating that the red dragon was tamed by Asura Makiko, leaving Yang stunned. She strokes her dragon, commenting that it's good. Wuzu celebrates enthusiastically. Her companion remarks that the Sakura nation now had its dragon, and the patriarch would be amazed and reward them generously. The woman, observing her silent opponent, asks what he has to say. He replies that he's impressed by Su Yang and now by her for taming a dragon. Mr. Lai congratulates her on her achievement and says he'll escort her back to Longkan City for the Sakura nation. From atop the dragon, she nods in gratitude. Admiring the view, she thinks it's a shame she didn't meet the boy with the black dragon since he had a very unique aura. But since he joined the association, there would be plenty of opportunities to interact in the future, and she smiles at the thought. From a distance, Linger watches the red dragon flying, wondering how it was possible. With tears in her eyes, she comments that Yang was unbelievable, but she couldn't accept that Makiko had beaten her as well. The monster was upset because no one showed up to challenge him. Then he thought it was for the best since he got no chance against Carolina. At that moment, Gluttony received a call to return. He thought that his life was given by the Lord, so it was better to accept death than to be killed by humans. A lightning bolt struck him as he declared that he was a loyal servant and was answering the call. His master summoned him to death and asked if he had any objections. Lying before him, he said he would not dare to complain. The demon commented that his loyalty was commendable and began. Red roots rose, covering the monster's entire body and squeezing him to the end. With his death, he gained 3.7 billion experience. Besides the experience, Yang obtained several items from him. He thought there were few items, but of great value. However, that was not the most important thing. In front of him appeared a special item, making him excited and feeling very lucky. When he pressed it, a strong light appeared in the form of lightning, startling him. It was a divine artifact, reversal of sin, and moreover, it killed kings. It granted Gluttony's authority, 2% of the attributes of a slain enemy. It was the same as divine power. Unfortunately, he needed to be a demigod to equip it. He couldn't use it because leveling up too quickly would be suspicious. In the holy city, the priestess thought they still hadn't found who stole the reversal artifact, but no confrontation had occurred. Each nation had guards at the entrances to the demon abyss that should prevent incidents. Only the expedition team could enter. Extending her hand to the statue, she asked to hear her prayer. At that moment, the system emitted a panel stating that the corruption rate was at 14%. No one could complete a class change beyond the 8th level. At 50%, the main theme would be despair. She thought the world needed someone to break that deadlock, a true hero. The system issued a new alert that worried her. She called all squads in the abyss to report any unusual activities, but no one reported abnormalities. The city guards were elite. An assassin couldn't ignore them, and she wondered if the problem was in the abyss, if it was related to the person she had seen earlier. Everyone was asking what was happening and whether there was interference from the temple. The priestess said they could doubt, but the temple never intervened, and if it did, it wouldn't be so covertly. She ordered them to leave their posts and all go to the abyss. Her companions agreed. Thus, she instructed them to form a team, and this time, they could not let an artifact be stolen. In the abyss, the demon thought they should already have an alert about the second stolen artifact. Thinking about the positions, he said his existence was the greatest disturbance to the system. If you placed Lucifer directly in Gluttony's domain, he wondered who would clear the 100th floor. Outside, Augustin looked at the abyss, saying he was finally back. He turned around and asked everyone if they were ready, and the man said he had been looking forward to it for years. Zan said he would go at any moment, and Poker commented that the first 200 floors had already fallen, they wouldn't let the third one fall. Carolina stated that everyone there was high level, so she wouldn't waste words. One of the warriors asked to join since he never had the chance to face the abyssal bosses. They waited to see what they would do. Thus, all of them descended together into the depths. That floor was Gluttony's domain. Since there was no guardian boss, they attacked it. Lucifer observed everything, saying they had finally arrived. The Templars said there were enemies ahead, but they realized it wasn't King Gluttony. The woman asked them how they dared enter her lord's domain and whether they were ready to die. Mike said it was interesting that the boss had a female body, and Poker warned him not to be reckless. He didn't listen and ran toward her when something passed through his head. Lucifer had killed him with a single move. The woman asked who was the boss, and her colleague responded that his skill was ineffective. The demon said it was his turn to try. Checking her information, Su Nang discovered she was of divine rank. During the punishment battle, he had forgotten to check, but her stats were absurd, even while weakened. So he decided to observe her talents and was impressed when he read them. Anyone below her level was considered weak and couldn't harm her. No one in the world was at her level. If Lucifer eliminated the assault team, he could control them that time, and upon seeing Jean and Augustin, he became excited. He asked the woman to guard the 100th floor so they could learn what true strength was. She, thrilled, said she was his loyal servant and would obey his orders. Carolina and Tang summoned their beasts to attack with full force. Augustin does the same and also commands them to attack with full force. All the warriors and their beasts use their abilities to attack Lucifer. An explosion erupts from the ground to where the boss was. When the smoke dissipates, they wonder if they had succeeded. However, the leader and the president are seen being thrown aside, and their enemy remains unscathed, declaring that death was their destiny. They wonder why she was on that floor and why even their combined attack didn't work. Lucifer begins to prepare for the attack, and the god commands them to ready their defenses and stay in formation. She offers them to her master, and then a lightning bolt strikes the team. An explosion occurs behind her, and she says that the weak will perish. After that, a mountain of smoke rises around them. In the end, only 3 of them survived. Even Poker had failed, and she annihilated them in an instant. Tang Zhan comments that the 3 of them had once delivered a final blow to a king, but the others were killed instantly. Another says that her power made her invincible in every way. When they look at her, a whirlwind forms as she declares she would not fail the mission. Outside, 3 lightning bolts strike the ground. Outside the abyss, all the warriors are sitting on the ground. One of them asks what had happened, who that person was, and why she didn't fall immediately. On the ground, another says they were slaughtered like dogs on the road, and the third asks how that boss ended up there. Caroline says the atmosphere is one of sadness, and the god comments that it was inevitable after such a defeat. Poker remarks that he knew they didn't stand a chance against her, and that they couldn't conquer the dungeon. The woman states that they couldn't obtain the weapon of rebellion, let alone kill the lord of the original sin. Zhang says that if they don't complete the final stage of ascension to divinity, they won't defeat the king of arrogance. With his head down, August says that this was the first enemy besides the priest who was impossible to defeat. The king was terrifying. That was the darkest moment in the world. Yang observes everything and comments that they were wrong. The steps to ascension to divinity would come, but until then, Lucifer's offer was convincing. He could issue a command and sense the position, state, words, and thoughts of the person. Amid all the negativity of the place, he managed to spot someone extremely joyful and wonders if she was okay. Apparently, it was someone from Shiva. He thinks that those people always left a specific impression, like the traditional case system. It was intriguing to suffer such a devastating defeat and still find him in high spirits. Then he reads his thoughts. Hazan sees the warriors and thinks it was good to see them like that because it gave Shiva a chance to surpass Longxia. He continues saying that they should obtain the legacy of the ancient devourer. Yang ponders that name since it was in the description of the dragon's sword. A sword and its description mentioned that Atos was a descendant of the ancient devourer. It seems his brother Yumino discovered that information on a stone tablet near the secret kingdom. The ancient devourer frightened ancient dragons, and those who entered the catacombs would inherit his legacy. Only the brothers knew that the army was there while Bijan was in the secret kingdom. No one would be a match for them. After all that, they would be the geniuses, and the others would perish. Yang, in the demon's body, read all the young man's thoughts. He says he would cry for him because he couldn't imagine he was being overheard. He considers thanking him because Bijan wouldn't be difficult to defeat. At that moment, he remembers Lucifer and decides to see what she was doing. She was in the same position for a long time. Since she was of divine rank, perhaps she didn't get tired. She already knew she was being watched and enjoyed it, embarrassed, saying her master was modest. At the same instant, he calls her. When she appears, she kneels, asking if her actions had displeased him. The demon comments that she eliminated the enemies and did an excellent job, so he would reward her. Lucifer says she was already happy to have pleased him and wouldn't dare accept his grace. Using his power, Yang declares it was a gift from her master and she shouldn't refuse it. He strikes her with the injection of the principal essence. When it ends, she comments that her body was overflowing with his power and asks for more. He asks her to wait until he obtains another resource and orders her to leave. Lucifer obeys the command. Stu thinks she was a difficult character, but the power of the Lord of the original sin was truly terrifying. At that moment, a golden lightning bolt strikes in front of him, startling him. From it, the great priestess of the temple, Euphemia, appears. Earlier in the temple, she had received news about the army and was astonished. Facing the statue, she declares that the situation was abnormal and she could no longer be just a spectator. Thus, she begins to ask for the blessing of the sacred statue. She asks it to grant her the eye of vision so she can witness what descends from the infinite darkness. Her request is granted and the eye of revelation evolves into the eye of truth. After that, she descends into the abyss to meet the demon king. She says his power is terrifying and asks if he is the lord of the abyss. Yang asks what the priestess is doing there. She asks if the Lord knows her, and he confirms it. Standing up, she comments that she is aware of the resistance that attacked the abyss and that they were eliminated. Looking into his eyes, she asks how she should be welcomed. Euphemia thinks that the last time she saw him, he was asleep. Now his power was above that of a god. She needed to retreat and regroup with the resistance forces to draw up a plan. As she tries to leave, the king asks if she thinks she can enter and leave as she pleases. With that, giant hands emerge behind the priestess. Before she can escape, she ends up being captured by them. Face to face, he asks what equipment would drop from killing the strongest human priestess, but thinks her experience would be wasted. However, upon looking again, he notices a luminous ray in her hand. As expected of a great priestess, Yang knows he cannot capture her easily. Her magic follows her as the luminous point moves away from the abyss. In it, the woman falls back to the surface. Frightened, she thinks that it was incredibly dangerous, that if the temple's power hadn't summoned her in time, it would have been disastrous. Her colleague asks if she is alright. She says she is exhausted and asks about the resistance. The other reports that they have regrouped and are on their way. Euphemia says she will return to her room, and the others should stay there and inform her if there are any visitors. Observing everything, Sue didn't expect the energy to revert when she returned. He thinks he knew her from books and that her power could rival Lucifer's. If she could join the resistance and died, it would have been a tremendous loss. But since she infiltrated, he questions the power of the statue. Then he decides to use dark power to corrupt the statue and alter its data. A few minutes later, it was already exhausted and it hadn't worked at all. When the power entered, it encountered resistance, isolating itself inside, and luckily for him, there were no alarms. Looking at one of the priestesses, he decides to control someone. He tries to contact her, and she is startled when she feels him. She feels someone invading her body and mind but cannot stop it. A little later, she transforms into a demon priest who calls for her master. Realizing what he has done, the boy is surprised as he has changed the girl's race. Looking at the statue, he wonders if it was reacting. The temple begins to emit a signal that could be seen from everywhere and reaches all others. Several alert signals appear, reporting what happened and warning that people could turn into demons. These alerts indicate unlocked demonic areas, as well as a new statue and a new race. Finally, the path between the human and demonic worlds had been opened. They would need to choose a side. Two men are talking and discussing a new camp that was opened, questioning what it means. One of the women questions if people would want to become demons, while the other says that people would do anything for power. The woman states that there is no reason to join a demonic camp, and the younger one says it might just be a means of survival. As they walk, the women talk about the camp update while being observed. The observers talk and Director Jia is asked what he thinks, and he responds that they need to stabilize the others' hearts. Then the other man asks if the demigods will hesitate and says his informant revealed that the ones with the weapon of sin are different people. To this, Jia says that if this would be the worst thing that could happen, it's because the version update mission will never be completed. In the Holy City, the girl says she never expected her brief adventure to lead her to such a surprising event. She says that, so far, they haven't managed to break through the layer of the abyss guarded by Lucifer, and that the search is global and difficult for humans. The young woman comments that in this way, many would think completing the global challenge is impossible and would be tempted to join the camp, concluding that, as long as entering doesn't cost them their sanity, they can reach the level of a god without completing the global challenge. Thinking, the young woman says she feels through the soul seal that at least 6 or 7 of the world's strongest warriors are considering this, implying that Lucifer has influenced them, and because of this, she cannot see anything interesting in this situation. Still reflecting on everything, she believes that in this situation she would accept the challenge of changing professions from the demonic statue, and that after completing the rank advancement and collecting all 7 weapons of sin, she could still claim the first death of the Lord of Original Sin. Analyzing the situation, she wonders if killing the Lord of Original Sin and the system resurrecting him would allow him to retain his authorities. With this, she understands that there might be a boss at a higher level than the Lord of Original Sin, going beyond imagination. A demon appears in the temple, surprising everyone, and an order is given to capture the opponent. The pink-haired girl is on top of the animal and says she has finally found her lord. The blonde girl says there is no way to think about escaping. Quickly, the girl disappears and turns into smoke, but the group believes she must still be in the area. The group leader says there is no need to search for her and orders everyone to return to their initial positions. Pensive, the blonde girl realizes that the power she just felt was the lord of original sin and wonders if she acted carelessly. Far from there, the demon declares he will not run away and that it was just a tactical retreat. He is in the demon city and asks if this would be the place mentioned in the announcement. Nearby, a group says that if it weren't for the great lord who freed them, they would just be lifeless corpses now. The great demon talks to the pink-haired girl and says there is too much noise in the place and that she must maintain order. As the young woman approaches the group, they think it must be difficult to control the group with just a demon priestess, and that everything will depend on the power of the high priest, who is invincible in the human realm, and that the demon temple must also have a powerful being. In the throne hall, the supreme lord goes to meet the new king of sin and calls for envy. Livia, the queen of envy, appears and says she is responding to the chief's summons, while thinking she must make the lord forget the traitor. Face to face with the woman, the lord appoints her as the first great demonic priestess. After giving her orders to leave, the lord notices the group has built a foundation but understands that it will serve him in the future. Envy appears, giving orders for the servants not to waste time and always reminding them of the great lord's commands. Admiring Livia, the pink-haired young woman says that when her friend intervened, the servants immediately became obedient. She thinks that the lord gave her a very important mission and that she will take great care of her chief's safety. The instruction screen appears to the woman, telling her to resist the red moon. Confused, Livia wonders what that was that appeared, saying she had never seen anything like it before. One of the servants says he cannot see anything, and he adds that he heard something about the red light and that whoever completes the quintuple promotion mission has a chance to encounter it. Curious, Envy asks if this comes from the demonic statue and that she must ask her lord first. On her knees, she goes to talk to him, but there are no answers, leaving the young woman wondering if he fell asleep again. Then she thinks that every now and then the chief is like that, and no matter how much they call, he does not wake up. In a holy city, a group is gathered around a table. The priestess thanks everyone for their presence and says it is a special circumstance, and therefore she wanted to apologize for the urgency in gathering everyone. Augusta says formalities are unnecessary and that everyone knows the reasons for her summoning them. She then continues, saying everyone has received information about the world update and that she hopes no one enters the demon camp. One of the young men says that what the girl says is true, but he almost faltered at a certain point. Another man says that the previous battle left deep scars on everyone and that the sudden update targets people's weaknesses. The red-haired woman says there is no need to be pessimistic and asks if forming an alliance is not an option. The priestess says humans have never been able to enter the demon realm without permission and that completing the alliance challenge would be good. She is interrupted by a man who says that to complete the mission, they could ask for help from the elf kingdom. After all, Lucifer is the strongest king of sins, and killing him means keeping all the sin kings. Everyone at the table agrees and has no objections, but the priestess says she has already spoken with the elf kingdom in advance. Alan Lawrence appears and says he is the son of the elder of his family. Frightened, the humans question who that level 160 man might be. Welcoming him, the blonde young woman says she thanks the elf kingdom for answering her request. The man states that the woman truly is a gem, as he had heard from others, and she becomes irritated. Returning to the matter at hand, he says he will read the queen's decree, which states that she will help the human kingdom, but with some conditions. He lists the queen's requests in order to assist the group of humans. Everyone listens attentively and becomes outraged by the conditions, which include forbidding humans from entering the secret realm. While the whole group speaks and protests against the requests, the priestess asks them to maintain order. Alan asks what the woman thinks, and she says that the second and third conditions are fine, but she would like the first one to be reconsidered. For this, he asks how many nations are qualified to enter the secret realm at that moment, and the woman responds. In this case, he authorizes entry, but the person who tamed the black dragon is prohibited from entering. Tang stands up and questions if the request is being directed at Long Xia. Alan says the young man is mistaken, and that the elf kingdom doesn't need any human nation and considers everyone equal in their eyes. A man intervenes, saying the elf kingdom must have its reasons and that a sacrifice to secure a great ally is necessary. His companion agrees, stating it is important to make some sacrifices at the request of allies. He asserts that if the young man's behavior causes them to fail, Long Xia will be guilty of betraying all humanity. Listening, the red-haired girl believes the conversation is getting a bit exaggerated, and Augustus agrees, asking where Tang is going. Angry, the warrior gains strength, and it is evident on his face that he is quite irritated, scaring his opponent. Before the young man could say another word, Tang punches him in the face, sending him flying far away. The Arab young man stammers and asks what the warrior is trying to do, but he also receives a strong blow from the man. Still enraged, Tang says that Long Xia doesn't need scum like them to teach them anything. Speaking to the priestess, he says he doesn't understand the elf kingdom's decision, but they will bear the responsibility and accept defeat if it happens. He concludes by saying he has things to do and leaves the place. Injured, the two young men complain of pain, and the Arab promises revenge for the humiliation sooner or later. Nearby, the protagonist notices that the Elf Kingdom, Sakura, and Shiva are looking for him and finds it audacious. A girl approaches and calls him, but he thinks that anyone who crosses the line with the king deserves a harsher punishment than the one Tang gave. The young woman keeps asking what is wrong with her master. Laughing, he says that only his shoulders are a bit sore. While receiving a massage, he says he accidentally let his domineering aura slip and now needs to be more careful with it. Pensive, he reflects that it's not right but understands the actions of the Sakura and Shiva countries, though not the Elf Kingdom. He mentions that it seems they don't know about Lilith's whereabouts and must want to avenge a care. He decides to ask Lilith later. When asked, the woman says it's impossible for them to be worried about a care. After all, they have no interest in avenging him. The protagonist asks why, and she says that elves are not monolithic and that behind the scenes, they are full of schemes and tricks. With this response, he thinks they must be targeting whoever brought the end of fear and shadows, the ancient devourer. Thinking deeply, the young man believes they hold strong hostility and vigilance toward any black dragon. And this would explain the group's excessive demands, as the elves wouldn't want anyone else exploring the secret realm. To prevent the legacy of the ancient devourer and the hero's name, the elves naturally don't want outsiders participating in the exploration. Speaking with Lilith, the man says they want to take the girl back, but she asserts she will not return. Outraged, she says the young man promised not to send her back and that he must keep his promise, and he assures her he won't send her back. Reflecting, he thinks his conscience wouldn't allow him to make the girl return. But when he tamed the black dragon, Lilith showed her face in front of everyone, and they began to recognize her image. A message from Tang Jian arrives for the young man. Hours later, he receives the warrior at his residence and questions the reason for his visit. He explains to Su Yang that he will not be allowed to participate in the expedition to the secret realm of the dragon spirit. Shocked, the young man asks why he cannot participate, and it is explained that the demand is with the Elf Kingdom. Tang says he disagreed with what was decided, but the rest of the group did not object. The young man's attitude causes Su to start crying, and he says he never imagined this would happen. Calming his friend, the warrior says that although he will not participate in the mission, the country will compensate him later. Tang leaves the place and Su asks him to take care of himself. When his friend leaves, the protagonist begins counting down the days until the secret realm opens. He says he is concerned whether the two 9th rank classifications are ready to face the surprise he himself prepared. The next day, the Sakura country is shown. The red dragon says that it is truly a shame the boy who tamed the black dragon cannot participate. The young woman says she hoped to have the opportunity to interact with him more. In the Shiva country, someone talks to Vijayanu and says this is his and his country's chance to enter the secret realm. While talking, the young man says he is excited about the next day, and that it would be even better if the boy who tamed the dragon could go. The Elf Knights begin arriving at the location, currently 6 in total, forming a very strong front line. Eric, one of the elves, says he did not imagine that in such a short time 3 humans would tame dragons, which exceeded his expectations. He says he does not know what methods are being used and that after the mission, there will be no dragon knights left. Alan tells the young man not to rush, as once they conquer the human world, his family will surely gain a vast territory. The young man says he cannot wait and that he will be the first. A girl says that the impression she had of the elves is crumbling. Another says her intuition tells her that they want the group far away from them. They ask her not to get nervous and to remain calm. The red-haired woman says that if they encounter danger, they should not act recklessly, as staying alive is the most important thing. They comment that the Elf Kingdom is truly putting on a great show, bringing many people. The young man from the Shiva country informs his uncle that he is leaving for the mission. Alan asks the priestess if she wants to go with him later. Observing a young man, he believes that the 6 new members of the Elf Kingdom are truly an unexpected bonus, and that if they are killed, it will yield 8 new dragons, and there is nothing more wonderful than that. A massive explosion occurs. The man says they used a forbidden spell and killed people from the Elf Kingdom and questions if they have gone mad. Suddenly, Augustus appears, surprising everyone. A new explosion occurs, raising a massive cloud of smoke. In this moment, the Black Dragon says that manipulating a 9th rank is an inexplicable pleasure and asks the Archmage to fight for him. And he commands him to follow his lineage and devour everything. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.